Welcome to Two Brothers and an Idea. They call me Ferdinand, the bringer of balance, leader of many disciplines, and one of your hosts of Two Brothers and an Idea. And I'm here with my new host, the awesome brother coming from the Scorpio side of the zodiac wheel, Ra Thriver.
What's going on, brother? Man, you jump straight into it today. We ain't getting no pre warm up game or nothing. My man just went live. I ain't get to do a camera check or voice check or nothing today. Jesus, my
You
man
know, man,
excited.
I sat back and I said, Ra and I, we have these amazing conversations behind the live. Nobody gets to see that a lot of times. Like before the show even starts, we might have like 20 minutes that we've talked and went
Right.
into some deep situations concerning the topic of the day. And I was like, you know what? Let's go ahead and just have that on the show today. And I was like,
Okay.
shake it up a
All
little
right.
bit.
Listen,
How
I'm
you
cool with
doing,
it.
man?
Hey, man, listen. Since this is the show before the show, I guess we can usually, we get our preliminaries and just conversation. And it does we end up losing some jewels within those conversations. But yeah, guys, this is just my first time seeing my my homeboy this week. So I'm seeing him live for the first time, just as you. And what's up, man? How you been?
Cool, man. Cooling, man. Just I've been doing a lot of reading. I've been
Oh
back and
yeah,
forth a little heavy. I mean, I'm reading all the time, but just going in on certain things.
guys with the
So,
books.
what's up?
I said, God, the guy with the books.
That's what they call me on late for breakfast. When I walk in a room, I be feeling like coming in there like, yeah, I am. They
Right, I am.
in different lands they call me by many names.
That's a fact. That's a fact. But yeah, man. So I've been doing some resting, you know what I mean? Some stillness. Sometimes inactivity is the most activity. So
Yeah,
I just been letting, ideas, concepts and things just not doing a whole bunch of moving, getting up, doing what I need to do. But yeah, man, I've been kind of just in a state of stillness, restness, and just, yeah, man, contemplation.
yeah. Sometimes you got to do that, man. We were talking last week or the week before about when the truck is driving down the street with the bucket of water in the back. The 5 gallon bucket has got the dirt in it too. Well, by the time you
Mm.
get to the house, it's all shaken up, right? So you let it sit for 15 minutes, and all of the dirt go down to the bottom, and you got clear water, right? No noise, and we
I was just
can
about to say
hear,
that.
we can see better in that space.
Yeah, no, man. That purity and no noise thing is funny because it's been echoing in my head for the past week, or more when you first kind of said it. And the more that I get pure, even in my silence, and you de-noise, you start to see that it is the water and the sifting of it, and you're allowing certain energies. I'm not going to say higher or lower, but certain energies just go where they may, because you're not so busy trying to stop it or entangle with it. You're being quiet, and just so happens that the separation is occurring, and the so-called noise is going down. And then what you're left with after the noise goes away is that level of purity which you're talking about. So yeah, man, that's been echoing in my brain as I've been stealing myself, and I'm like, hey, this is the noise that's leaving that Ferdinand be talking about. So shout out to you with that one.
Yeah, man. I appreciate that. When we look at the communication model, we have a source encoding a message. Then that message got to travel through noise, and then it's got to be decoded by the other source on the other end, or the receiver on the other end, and then they got to give a message in response. That's got to go through noise
Yeah,
to
that's it.
be decoded by the now the new receiver, and now the receiver became the source. When we look at this communication model, one of the ways that we can put ourselves in a positions of improvement, and I'm giving this to everybody out there who's listening. So thank all y'all for being here for Two Brothers and Idea, episode 26, AutoSuggestion. But what we can do for ourselves is we put ourselves in a position we where we're able to put out meaningful messages that align directly with what the intent and what the results are to be. But also now we have our own noise dialed down, and the receiver has their noise dialed down. Because when we talk about this noise that the message has to travel through, we're not just talking about the receiver's noise. We're talking about the noise of the sender as well, right? And even if
Mm,
this is just a one person equation, it works the exact same way.
mm. My man was ready. I mean, he was ready, getting ready for this. I see the glow on your face. You ready to go in, man? Listen,
Auto suggestion, man. It's all, it's auto suggestion. Just for everybody out there. Matter of fact, I'm going to put it up on the screen for everybody. Auto suggestion is a term which applies to all suggestions and all self administered stimuli, which reach one's mind through the five senses. Okay, so I consistently talk about this on podcasts. I write about it on Facebook and in other situations for collegiate papers. I've written about this. Understand that everything that comes into your experience, it becomes a suggestion or an electrical impulse that is going to create some type of physical reaction, some type of physical movement is going to manifest as a result of this suggestion, right? The more intense ones is heavier emotions as aligned with those. However, understanding suggestion period puts you in a position to understand everything in your experience is affecting you. And then everything in your experience is influencing you to create whatever it is that you are creating in your experience, right? So when you look at it from all these different perspectives, when it comes down to auto suggestion, auto suggestion would be what you say to yourself, what you communicate to yourself, right?
I
However
see how
you
this episode's gonna go. I see how this is gonna go. Yeah, I see how today's gonna go. My man's gonna be cooking. I already see it. Go ahead, continue. My bad.
You good, man. You good. I just want the people to have some value in this conversation. And I believe every single conversation that we have, the people are gaining value from the both of us. And I appreciate, your presence every time you're here because you be giving straight fire, bro. You be in the kitchen cooking up some gumbo, man. You be making the remix version or something. but I want the people to have some value when it comes down to this auto suggestion understanding, because this is how we are shaping reality, people. Please understand that this is not an exaggeration. This is exactly how it happens, right? How you choose to communicate to yourself, how you choose to think to yourself is communication. How you choose to display body language, right? This is also communication. How you choose to use actual language, how you choose to write, all these different pieces of communication, right?
Mm,
They're shaping your reality. Now, understand that there's also other influences in there that matter in this equation, right? But the main part of the equation that matters the most is you, which is why this episode is titled
mm.
Auto Suggestion.
Listen, man. I see I'm gonna be the sous chef this episode, which is fine. You know me. I have no problem. I already see it. All right. I took my brain boost. I don't know what happened. You know what I'm trying to say. Got a little bit of my coffee. Shout out to the Roots Tribes. But yeah, my man is hitting it on the head, and this is definitely going to be his wheelhouse, and this is one of the reasons why I wanted to do this, because he kept talking about suggestions and auto suggestions. And when we're talking about auto suggestions, out of everything that we're talking about, even some abstract idea, this is where the practicality comes in. So this is why you see my man over there shining, because when it comes, we balance each other well, and this is his wheelhouse of and as you guys can see, even from how he's breaking it down. So he's not telling no lies. What I'm going to just be doing right now is I want to just get into the social contract. We gotta we're gonna all agree what this auto suggestion is before we move. My man is already getting in, so I'm gonna take it back. You know what I mean? I want us to bring up the definition of auto, AUTO, if you don't mind. And we'll just start with auto, then we'll go to suggestion, which will form an agreement with the audience.
And
And
just
then
for
we can
everybody out there, real quick, Rod, just for everybody out there, this is an etymological dictionary, and the copyright that's 1,500, 300. So that's 1,882. It's 1882 copyright.
mm,
Okay,
mm,
in Roman
mm.
numerals for everybody out there. Now I'm gonna go ahead and head to Otto.
Absolutely. And once again, that we talked about another episode is, the English language, don't let nobody tell you different. Yes, there might be some things behind it, but sometimes the universe, packages and things that, might look horrific, but when you kind of peel down, you'll see a little bit more, because, we get to borrow from Latin, Greek. And as we see when we bring up the word auto, and when I did the etymology before the show came on, typically when we think of auto, we think of cars and stuff, but there's another if hopefully this one has it, meaning of auto, which just brings a whole new understanding to why we say auto suggestion. And let's see.
So looks like we don't have auto in this dictionary, unfortunately. We got
Okay, that's cool.
autography, autopsy, autonomy. Let's check this. Let's check Black's Law. This is a second edition Black's Law for anyone out there wants to know. Copyright 1918. Let's go to auto. Got a little ways to go, y'all.
You guys, hey, listen, guys. You know, when I see words and definitions, etymology, this be some of my favorite part of the podcast. You know, and if you are someone who is a lover of words, you know, it's never more exciting than when we can drill down, you know, into the origins, you know, of these words.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I already know when it comes to auto, you know, you have your English meaning, you know, but it also has it has Greek origins as well. And if this doesn't have it, we'll definitely get it offline.
Yeah, definitely. That'll be the next move is Google.
Yeah. And I think once you guys see, you know, the Greek origins of the word, man, it allow you to see just everything we're talking about in a new way.
All right. So what they got over here in Black's Law, second edition, is auto accordado. And they got authority. So let's go ahead and shift over
to government at what it says, a government at the will of one man. Okay. But yeah, let's get some Google on.
Yeah, let's get Google over here, y'all. Y'all bear with me just for a second.
It's all good.
In just a second. Auto definition.
Yes, sir. And Google's going to give us the origin.
Matter of fact, I'm gonna pull this up first, and then I'm gonna switch that and go with the etymology of that word, because I just put a bare basics definition. So let's switch that up.
But if you go to but leave that for a second. Let me see. Click that more button underneath go down and click that. Yeah, more definitions. Let's see if it shows the go down.
Oh, there you go. Well, we got the origin right there.
That's I can't see because my head is there. Down more. More. Let's see if it has it on here. Down more.
Yeah.
There we go. Greek. There we go. The origin Greek, which you see, autos, which self-suggestion. And you can definitely go to etymology.com and type in auto, and then we can really get mixing on that, because I think that's important. It's important. Greek, from the Greek word autos, which means self. So when you're hearing auto, and what our mind might think we're talking about doing something, or you know, it's important to get clear, because a lot of times, you know, Ferdinand can attest, we're using these spells, these word spells, and we really do not know what they mean. You know, we're so far away from their origin, and we don't know the English language is an amalgamation of all these different words smashed in. And then we can go to the Greek one down below, automobile. Automobile is English. That's our stuff, but we got it from somewhere else. So right there, you see it says auto right underneath the word forming Greek. There we go. And you want to read it? I could read it. It doesn't even matter.
Well, you go ahead and take these definitions. I want to go ahead and pull up the book. I got thinking of Rich.
Shout out Lou. Shout out to my boy Thrava, my boy Lou. Word forming elements of Greek origin, meaning self or oneself, by oneself, or of oneself. From Greek autos. It's a reflexive pronoun, self-same. You know what I mean? So self-same, oneself, independently, natural, native. So when we're saying auto, and this is how, you know, of course, if you put AutoSuggestion, we'll go into suggestion really quick. You can kind of understand what we're talking about when we're saying AutoSuggestion. I don't want your mind to go somewhere else. You know, I don't want your mind. I want you to know that realistically, and then it'll kind of break it in when we break down suggest real quick. And you understand that, you know, as my boy was breaking down last week or the week before that, educar or educare, when they're talking to draw out. So now we got self, and real quick, just type in suggest, not even suggestion, but just suggest. And then I'll wrap that up, and then we'll go into Napoleon Hills.
And I actually got the suggest also pulled up on the etymological dictionary. I want to show you that too after we get
beautiful
after this.
So once again, auto, self, suggest, place before another's mind or put forward in a proposition. From Latin, suggestus, past principle of suggere, to bring up to bring under, to lay beneath, to furnish, to afford, to supply, to prompt. So when you look at that auto suggestion, you know that when we talk about educare, or however you say it, to bring out, to bring forth, all of these things are kind of suggesting that they're talking about education, and true education is of an education of self. And you don't know if a man is educated until you see the fruits, because it's not a staying in thing, it's a self thing. But even this word suggest is to bring up, to bring out, to bring under, to draw from. So continue, my brother.
I'm gonna go ahead and pull up the other one, as I got it pulled up in
Okay. And then after that, we can kind of agree that when you, because the biggest thing is a lot of times, especially when we're teaching and we're pulling from different references, a lot of times we're doing allegorical type of analogies, type of parables, and you might hear us suggest, you know, things differently, but always know what we're talking about and what we mean. We're talking about you, right? And when we continue through the rest of this episode, we're telling you these are things that you need. Shout out to my brother, said that you're talking and telling yourself, even in all forms of communication, from others to everything. Our brains and subconscious is recording everything we suggest, because it's all internal suggestion before it ever gets reflected to Ferdinand, your mom, Facebook, everything else in between. But go ahead, my brother.
I love how you use the word reflected. So in the etymological dictionary of from Oxford, 1882, we've got to introduce indirectly, to hint, to carry or lay under, furnish, supply, suggest. All right. So when we think about suggestion, you know, like Ra and I have said, this is self ideas that are being presented. At the end of the day, every piece of food that you're eating, it's an idea that's being presented. Every bit of lotion you put on your skin, every one of the chemtrails that you smell, these are all suggestions. They're suggesting that certain things happen within inside of you that you are going to now utilize and do without of you. It gets
and another word I see in there is supply. So when we say, you know, the Lord is my supply, or, you know, so once again, these auto suggestions, and they're auto too for a reason, because they're always going whether we know that they are or not, you know. But the idea, I don't know who's calling me, no, I got a show on Monday, but the idea, you know, is to take control, to take more of a proactive, to lay down the groundwork, because we see that this is meaning that these words are building something underneath that is then made visible. You know what I mean? Because we know that the word was made flesh. So what we're talking about, this is the reason why I wanted to cover this, because if you guys follow the episodes, we're not just on here talking blibbity hot blue, but we're like slowly stepping you through an entire process of what it means to manifest and to create and to know the truth, as Ferdinand said. But knowing it is not good enough to know the truth, but then to be the truth. You know what I mean? Well, go ahead, bro. Why you texting? I'm on the show.
Appreciate you, brother. You hitting on some things. So for everybody out there who's tuning in, thank y'all again. Please hit the comments. You know, let us know what your knowledge is, what your wisdom is. You got any questions? Shoot them in the comments. We're gonna put them right up on the screen. But we got Think and Grow Rich here by Napoleon Hill. Okay, and this is about as early of a copy as I can get my hands on. But what I want to do is I want to take everybody to chapter 4. I'm gonna read a little bit out of there.
I have it. I have chapter 4 right here, man. Beautiful, beautiful.
All right, chapter 4: AutoSuggestion, the medium for influencing the subconscious mind. The third step toward riches. AutoSuggestion is a term which applies to all suggestions and all self-administered stimuli which reach one's mind through the 5 senses. Stated in another way, AutoSuggestion is self-suggestion. It is the agency of communication between that part of the mind where conscious thought takes place and that which serves as the seat of action for the subconscious mind. Through the dominating thoughts which one permits to remain in the conscious mind, whether these thoughts be negative or positive is immaterial. The principle of autosuggestion voluntarily reaches the subconscious mind and influences it with these thoughts. No thought, whether it be negative or positive, can enter the subconscious mind without the aid of the principle of autosuggestion. with the exception of thoughts picked up from the ether. Stated differently, all sense impressions which are perceived through the five senses are stopped by the conscious thinking mind and may be either passed on to the subconscious mind or rejected at will. The conscious faculty serves, therefore, as an outer guard to the approach of the subconscious.
I'm sorry, brother. I had to stop before you dive deeper, because once again, certain things, like I said, man, it's crazy, because I was in, and I told you I was like simmering for the past week, and then one day I wanted to call you because it started hitting me, when you were talking about the noise and purity. But I said, I'm just gonna let these ideas simmer. But even if you bring that back up, because a certain part that I want to touch on that kind of correlates to what you've been talking about, and it's the part right there where it says, hold on, maybe go down just a little bit. Okay, there it is. So the second paragraph. No thought, whether it be negative or positive, can enter the subconscious mind without the aid of the principle of autosuggestion. So one, as we just said, is always working, right? So that's how he said no thought can enter, whether it's positive or negative. And then we can scroll down because the bar, there we go. Now here's the second part. With the exception of thoughts picked up from the ether. And I just wanted before we go too far away from that particular phrase, the ether, the medium, the invisible medium that we are, once again, we are taking control and we are self-inducing, but there is also a level of non-control that is also inducing us at all times. And this is the noise that it's not the noise, it's the all, right? The ether and the all of mind to me are one and the same. But but there's noise in the ether, and this is what Ferdinand keeps talking about when the message is getting sent, how it has to travel. This is what he's describing. He's describing this invisible medium force,
the wave pattern.
Exactly. Forces, convoluting it, the noise. Then you're not going to be able to decipher, because when the message got sent from one place to the other place, you're picking up on too much distortion to actually properly move things that's more reflective in the things that you prefer. But I think it's important to understand that not only in our mind matrix are things happening that is concentrated on what we prefer, but there are things that's outside of our understanding that is auto-suggesting as well. So I think that's so important, because Ferdinand keeps telling you about purity is key, quiet, and all these things. You see why he's harping on it, because he understands that there is a medium which things are actually going through. And not only are the thoughts that we want, our family wants, even in your household, if you're in a certain environment, they are contributing to the auto-suggestions of the ethereal field of your home, which is AKA noise. But if you don't know that, and you think that they're not in my head. No, we're all in each other's head. This is the place we're all quantumly entangling with each other, whether we understand it or not. This is why purity is the key, because once again, repetition is the mother of all skill. We're going to keep repeating it. You're picking up on the noise from the invisible ether. So I just wanted you, my brother, to kind of just give us your thoughts on when it tells you. I'm gonna read it one more time. No thought, whether it be negative or positive, can enter the subconscious mind without the aid of the principle of autosuggestion. That's one. Two, with the exception of thoughts. It didn't say from a person. It said thoughts from the ether. So I just wanted you, before we went further, because we got more cooking up to do, for you to bring us your thoughts on that particular section right there.
So one of the things I really appreciate about that statement in there concerning the ether, I did a whole episode on telepathy. What takes place during this process. And everybody out there, it's a Two Brothaz and an Idea episode. I did it some months back, right? So if you go on fhtii.com, you can find it. You got to do a little scrolling, but you can find it in the blog. But anyway, when we think about getting messages or getting information out of the ether, well, this is about being cosmically connected, right? This happens at a higher clip in a state of purity, right? And so you're going to get information. You're going to get suggestions from those around you. You're going to get suggestions from yourself, your environment, nature, right? These are all different types of suggestion, right? But then there's that auto-suggestion. But that auto-suggestion has that exception of how telepathy works, right? So when you're in deep meditation, this is why it's so important to guard your mind, This is why it's so important to have righteous thoughts, right? Because depending what type of thoughts that you're having, it starts to elevate or lower your vibration. And depending where that vibration is for you, right, you might have a little more carnal thoughts, or you might have a little more infinite wisdom thoughts, right? It just really depends on how you choose to think. But how you choose to think is what's going to dictate what comes in through the ether that you might not necessarily be able to control that's coming in.
Man, and the challenging part about this thing is that because when you're on a certain level of vibration, you have those auto suggestions coming in, because we already deduced you are not the maker of the thoughts. We are the free will observant person that gets to choose which how the thoughts so-called come in, kind of reject, push, and not even reject, kind of push others to the side, focus on more, because we know in the mind, the ether, the mind is talking about, the all that is, you know what I mean? So it's so important, for us to understand that how the ether works, or how the mind of the all works, and how, when we were talking about the Kabbalion, and it tells you there's certain planes, and we didn't even get a chance to get into all the different planes yet, which is stay tuned.
Do that, man.
But there's certain planes within the ether that is outside of your understanding of causality. So you might be vibrating at a thing, and someone might say, hey, well, why did I attract this? And this is why I tell people, you cannot be mad at yourself because you've been on one vibration, one auto suggestion, and then you adversely seeming like you attracted something that's adverse, because you're in the mind of the all. You know
Right.
what I mean? You're in the mind of the all. So if you expect, this is why the neutralization is important when you're dealing with the ether, because if you expect that, no, oh, I'm doing this, my reality should only channel itself in one way, which is why I'm glad that we talked about the polarity and polarized man. You don't have a full understanding on how this place works. This is why neutralization is important. And go ahead, my brother, because it allows you to see something that is and not react to it. But go ahead, my brother.
This is why that conversation in churches about all the many mansions of my father's house.
Mm,
This is why that's so important, right? There's certain doors that open in certain vibrations. And if you're at those vibrations and those doors open, will things go in? Things come out, right? And
mm.
up to you on putting yourself in a vibration where you're cool with what comes in and what comes out of those doors of those many mansions.
Absolutely. And, once again, that was a beautiful thing, because the mini mansions, this is talking about the ether. You know what I mean? So, I haven't had a mini mansion like that, but I've heard stories of the Mike Tysons and the people who have big homes, and they might not even know someone's in the house. That's how expansive the ether is. So that's what we're talking about, causality, and not knowing that the ether works in different ways. You it's the same time you are the macrocosm, but at the macrocosm, you have so many parts of your own mansion, you don't even know what's in every room. So this is important to know, as my boy was saying, the telepathy, the noise, because the noise, it may not necessarily be all bad noise. You know what I mean? You might have a particular auto suggestion that you were working on that is directed in one thing, and your boy might call you with an opportunity that's noise, though, because his good news might be good news, but it's now directing your mind in another way that is adverse to the idea that you said that you wanted. You know what I mean? So this can also be noise. Noise doesn't always, and I realize this too, Ferdinand, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. When you reach a certain level of success can be noise, because someone else might offer an opportunity, and you see how it can lead to so-called more fruitfulness, but now it's requiring more time, or it's requiring more this and third, and you might say, you know what, universe or whoever, I want to be more quiet, and then now you had 10 opportunities to test if you really want it, and which can be noise, and now you have to decide which outcome do I, do I really want. So this is why, and we're going to get into it, because we can't. He pulled up the Think and Grow Rich. This is why having
Okay.
a
I'll close
definite
back up.
chiefness, aimness about yourself when you're talking about auto suggestion is so pertinent, because there's much noise when you're dealing with this kind of stuff. But my brother, bro. I just had to talk about the ether, but go ahead and continue to cook, because
Oh, it's
I didn't
all
want
good.
them. I didn't want that to slip away from them.
Oh, hey, man, whenever you need to, jump on in. Nature has so built man that he has absolute control over the material, which reaches his subconscious mind through his five senses. Although this is not meant to be construed as a statement that man always exercises this control.
Mm,
In the great majority of instances, he does not exercise it. which explains why so many people go through life in poverty. Recall what has been said about the subconscious mind resembling a fertile garden spot, in which weeds will grow in abundance if the seeds of more desirable crops are not sown therein. Autosuggestion is the agency of control through which an individual may voluntarily feed his subconscious mind on thoughts of a creative nature, or, by neglect, permit thoughts of a destructive nature to find their way into this rich garden of the mind. You were instructed in the last of the 6 steps described in the chapter on desire to read aloud twice daily the written statement of your desire for money and to see and feel yourself already in possession of the money. By following these instructions, you communicate the object of your desire directly to your subconscious mind in a spirit of absolute faith. Through repetition of this procedure, you voluntarily create thought habits which are favorable to your efforts to transmute desire into its monetary equivalent. I want to be very clear with everybody, okay? This is some powerful stuff we talking about here, okay? Because this is literally the way to achieve riches. If you want to achieve riches, you got to turn yourself into wealth, right?
Mm.
This is how it works, right? Whatever it is you become, those that's what you get to see on your outer on your existential life, right? Over time you build in your reality what you are here, okay? Now this happens as a result of what they're saying right here. Let's go back to it just for a quick second.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go back to this because this is some powerful stuff. Through repetition of this behavior, you voluntarily create thought habits which are favorable to your efforts to transmute desire into its monetary equivalent. Listen, take away monetary equivalent, okay?
Mm.
And put anything else you want there. Transmute desire into its great relationships, into its whole health, into its realizing of who I am, right? And the list goes on and on and on and on, because what you're doing is you're using the law as it is supposed to be used. And I'm going to put this up on the screen. This is my own definition of the law of suggestion.
Mm.
What we experience in repetition, we become. Right. Well,
Mm.
what are you experiencing and how are you experiencing it? Well, you're driving up and down the street every day. You look and you see Chick-fil-A. You might not actually buy from Chick-fil-A, but those signs and those colors and those shapes and those commercials, they're working on you. You might not buy Chick-fil-A, but you might go in the store and get some chicken and you made a chicken sandwich later.
Yeah, and that goes back.
Why'd you make the chicken sandwich? You wasn't going to make the chicken sandwich before. If you wouldn't have saw Chick-fil-A too many times or Chicken C too many times, you wasn't about to make no burrito, but you kept seeing Chipotle, right? Well, maybe it's not nothing with food. Maybe you drive past your favorite department store on a regular basis, and now you're just buying clothes just cause, right? Well, you keep experiencing this thing, so now you have to become the experience. You force yourself to become the experience, and the way that you do this is by experiencing a repetition, and then eventually you emotionalize one of these thoughts.
Mm.
Once the thought becomes emotionalized, that becomes automatic directions for the subconscious to create in the physical reality something based on what your vibrational frequency was at that point. So if you're vibrating real high, well, you might do some pretty dope stuff that just helps humanity, right? But if you're vibrating real low, maybe you do some things that is a detriment to humanity with this vibration, along with these suggestions that you must become.
Mm. It's crazy that you said that, we experience a repetition will become, because, one of the things that I say, repetition is the mother of all skill. You know what I mean? To keep saying things and putting things in a new way. And then absolutely, shout out to Tony. And then what you are talking about as far as damn, I done lost my train of thought real fast.
My
You go
bad.
ahead and cook, bro. It's all good. I done lost my train of thought.
Listen, y'all, when we're talking about suggestion, really get an understanding of this law. Read this book. Read Think and Grow Rich, right? Listen to the book, pull it up on YouTube, Audible, something, right? Listen to this material because it gives you some very valuable information. And understand that you can learn this information from the Holy Koran of the Moorish Science Temple of America. You can learn it from the Holy Bible of the Christian Church. You can learn it from the Holy Quran of the Mecca of Saudi Arabia, right? You can learn it from any of these different versions of parables, right? Of the zodiac. However, the best way to learn it, in my personal opinion, is to focus on purity, right? Because this is how the indigenous people of today are doing it. If they've never been in contact with a group of people before, that means they probably don't know what a book is.
Mm,
If you don't know what a book is, you never heard of the Bible, you've never
mm,
heard of the Quran, you've never heard of the teachings of Buddha. More than
mm,
likely, you've never heard of these before. So, how did they have saving power? How
mm,
are they going to have everlasting life more abundantly? Is it off the table because they don't have these books? Well, that's
mm,
ludicrous. That doesn't make any sense at all. And I'll go head to head with any clergy leader on planet Earth about that. And y'all can send it to them. You can send them the video if you want to. Just take that one clip, send it to them. Say Ferdinand said it, right? And understand that if these of our brothers and sisters, our cousins in these indigenous tribes, they never heard of books before. Well, how are they achieving everlasting life more abundantly? Well, they're doing it through purity. Purity is the answer. Go ahead.
and I remember what I was saying, because you always talk about symbology, and it's symbols. And the crazy thing is, when you were talking about the Chick-fil-A, these things, whether you understand it or not, reality has no choice but to reflect to you back symbols and symbology. It's just that, like you read, most of the time we're not paying attention, right? So as you reach a level of purity, you start to translate the same reality. Maybe you were filled with toxic chemicals, and now you're just watching Bad Girls Club, all the same reality. And without even trying to reach a new thought, now you're purifying yourself. And now the same reality is showing you a different understanding. Now, they may look at that flower and say, yo, the flower spoke to me. You know what I mean? Because what we're dealing with when we're dealing with symbols, you're dealing, and we know that the all is mind. This is why I'm glad we're offshooting from the Kabbalion. Because when you're dealing with symbology, you understand that all things that you see, whether things that you like or not, is you whispering back through you, through the all. You know what I mean? It's just that we don't, since we disconnect what we see, the word of the senses, with ourselves and with the all and what our reality is, we don't look at everything as trying to teach us or educar, or is because it's already out. If it's out, that means it's bringing something within, so-called triggers. So when you were talking about one, purity, and then you're talking about reality is symbology, my uncle says the same thing. Your nephew, how did our people learn before there was books? You know what I mean? Like, you don't need a book. He studied nature, but since he was in a certain frequency, or he was in a certain vibration, because mind you, we live in a fractal universe in all is mind. That means that the definition of God is contained in everything. I could pick up, a book, a phone. I can read this label, and if I'm on it's funny because it said purified water, for your thirst. But if I'm in a certain frequency, I'll be able to see the infinite in everything, because the infinite is decoded in everything. But if we're not vibrating at the frequencies of revelation, which that is a frequency, the spirit of revelation is a frequency. And when you reach a certain level of so-called purity, you become, and me and Ferdinand, some of our favorite book right now is Revelations, a book that we might have had our entire lives, but now we're reaching certain states of purity, which is just meaning, once again, it's the automatic separation between so-called lower and higher, the oil and the vinegar, et cetera, where you're no longer shaking it, and you no longer have the noise of shaking it. Might be eating the bad foods, might be watching the bad TV, watching the BS on social media. You're not letting it just solve to the bottom. You're consistently shaking it up. And go ahead, my brother.
When we talk about the purity part, right?
Mm,
I would say that the purity part is a collective of what you just said. It's being still, but
mm,
it's also periodically scooping out some of that dirt. As the dirt
mm,
sifts to the bottom, now you
mm,
scooping out some, right? And then
mm,
again, you let the dirt scoop down to the bottom, sift to the
mm,
bottom, and you scoop some out, right? And what
mm,
you're doing is you completely purifying the vessel. I want everybody out there to understand that what you're looking at right now is two beings that have carbon-based cybernetic machines, and we are consistently feeding it auto-suggestion of righteousness and purity and everlasting life more abundantly, love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. We are consistently feeding ourselves those things, and as a result, we're able to get certain results in life, right? Well, what is that? That's an understanding of who you are. Now, are
mm,
you the body? No, but you have a body. This vessel is only able to carry out what it's capable of.
mm,
So, if a person's vibration is low on a consistent basis, yeah, your spirit is always infinite. Your
mm,
spirit is always what it is, but your spirit can only do so much with what it has, right?
mm,
So, if you are controlling the auto suggestions that are coming in and
mhm,
you are understanding what you are, at the spirit, mental, and physical level, or at the higher and the lower levels, then what you can do now is you can really, really tailor those suggestions to get you the exact result that you desire. So, what am I talking about right now? We've gotten to a lesson now on sacred geometry. These are
mm,
sacred geometrical algorithms that I'm talking about. So what you can
mm,
do to create your algorithm is take a look at your perspective on regress trauma. This is a factor in your equation. You can take a look at your sunlight intake, nutrition intake, water intake, exercise, sleep, and your goals, right? And then we can go on and on and on, and we can tailor out an algorithm that gets to the exact result you desire.
mm,
But we have to focus on auto suggestion because it has a role in every one of the pieces of the equation, even the plus and the minuses and the multiplications and the divisions and the pies and the exponents and all of
mm.
it.
Yeah, and shout out to my boy Lou. He put the power of the mastermind. It's funny because I had a book about Think and Grow Rich, and then it's a book that was just about, because I think one part that I missed in that book I read all the years when it's focused on the mastermind. Because at the time when I first introduced to the book, I didn't have the relationships that I have now. So I always skipped over that part. You know what I mean? And he always kept harping on how the masterminding was the most important element that he's seen in all the people that he interviewed. And it's funny because we didn't finish reading. I also saw the mastermind keyword on that auto suggestion page. And even once again, when we're talking about masterminding and purity, they go hand in hand because they always say still sharpen steel, but it's the same thing. Still, it's the cutting away of certain things. When you get to mastermind with your brother, it's also sifting. So masterminding in the right pretense, you know, because if you mastermind with the wrong people, you're adding to the noise, right? And this is another reason, shout out to Ferdinand, because you know he consults with people. This is why understanding that manifestation is a community thing, because let's say like if you have a lot of noise and you don't have no one who can help you cut off the fat and layer of the noise, and you're just keeping it within yourself, you know what I mean? This is why the mastermind is important, because you're able to
Implode.
go to someone, because we're all at some point is going to get tainted with it. It just is what it is. You know, if we want to have a human experience, no man is going to be able to get 100%. Because if he does, that means now he's no longer in the earthly so-called realm. And just like the book said, we do have control of it, but we drift and we slip in and out of control with the veil of forgetfulness. So this is why having certain things outside of yourself that does purify you, because sometimes you don't know what it is that you're necessarily doing, but you can create a habitual environment, just like this show is habitual. So I know that if anything, even if I've been in a so-called lower vibration, come Monday, I get to sift or I get to purify myself with the principle of the mastermind. So if you do want to bring it back up, my brother, we can keep on just reading the rest of the chapter. I think it's really important with this chapter, you know, has to bring.
Absolutely, I agree with you, man. Where did you leave off? Or I guess I left off.
Yeah, you left go back to these 6 steps described in
Go
chapter
back
2.
Go back to these 6 steps described in chapter 2 and read them again very carefully before you proceed further. Then, when you come to it, read very carefully the 4 instructions for the organization of your mastermind group,
Mm-hmm.
described in the chapter on organized planning. By comparing these 2 sets of instructions with that which has been stated on autosuggestion, you Of course, we'll see that the instructions involve the application of the principle of autosuggestion. Remember, therefore, when reading aloud the statement of your desire, through which you are endeavoring to develop a money consciousness, that the mere reading of the words is of no consequence unless you mix emotion or feeling with your words. If you repeat 1,000,000 times the famous Emile Coué formula, day by day, in every way, I am getting better and better. Without mixing emotion and faith with your words, you will experience no desirable results. Your subconscious mind recognizes and acts upon only thoughts which have been well mixed with emotion or feeling. And I
And
think I
listen,
was
man.
just touching that. I guess I was just saying that. And this and everybody out there, please understand, you don't need a doctor for this. You don't need to pay somebody for this, right?
Mm,
This is something that you can use anytime you want, and as long as you use it at times that are best operable, you get great results, right? So I'll give you an example. When's the best times to use this?
mhm,
First thing when you wake up or when you rise. Well, why? Because you're coming through a portal, right?
mm,
Now you come through that portal with the proper suggestions that keep your day moving in the direction you want it to go. Well, 20 years from now, what is how did you get to that culmination? You got to that culmination by what you do every day through the 24 hours. So this is the reason why when I'm consulting or leading someone to better health, helping them heal, I take them down a pathway of affirmations. Okay. And we're focused on emotionalizing those affirmations. So we write the emotion into the affirmation. We write the affirmation in the present tense or even in the past tense as if it's already achieved, right? Why are we doing this? We're doing this so that we can impregnate the subconscious mind with seeds that will grow into wealth. Okay. Now understand that it's timing in this as well. It's not just doing it. So doing it in the AM when you first get up, great idea. Doing it as you lull yourself to sleep, as you're going back through this portal and you're about to give your subconscious mind directions on how to move you forward in life, how to help you heal, how to repair certain areas of your body, right? This is the times to do that. Now, I would even say throughout the day would be good. But these are the two best times of the day to feed your subconscious information that's going to lead you wherever it is you desire to go. Now, as the book says, you're going to need to apply faith in this scenario, in the sacred geometrical algorithm. Well, faith, we could translate that to belief, right? So believing in whatever the idea is or whatever the affirmation is. Then we also have to align emotion. Well, why? Because emotion is what gives it power.
And the beautiful part is we broke down faith and what faith was, which is evidence of things that are unseen.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's that's an important part, because when we think faith, I think sometimes we think hope. And and you did say that on on Facebook, that knowing, because it does start with a belief. It starts with a belief, but the belief is the roots of the seeds that you feel. That's the stretching pause of the internal roots going through the system. Belief, repetition, belief. But then after a certain point, when you're mixing those energies and emotions, and why is energy so important for that? Because we already talked about it last week, the first 3 hermetic principles. All is mind, right? But you got to realize that principle cannot operate without the other 6. So even though there's a hierarchy, at the same time, there is no hierarchy. They're all equally as powerful. These are just the 7 keys to manifestation. So you have it in your mind. You have the auto-suggestion. You have the idea. You have it within your ethos, right? Yes, sir. I believe it's talking about
I'm
me.
gonna touch this as soon as you're done. I'm gonna touch
Right.
this statement as soon as you're done.
You have it in your ethos, right, in your mind, and you understand that it's in the ether because you somehow entangle with it, and you understand hermetic law. So since I'm entangling with it, I am enacting the 2nd principle of correspondence. But then it's my job to then, thus, we talked about this too, to activate the core principle of vibration. How do you do that? You do it with a mixture of emotions, and then you do it with the the chakra, the voice box, you know, because once again, shout out to the ancients in one of my faves, Neville, and we're going to talk about him in a future episode, but he talks about, and I don't even know if this is his original statement, he might be quoting like William Blake, but anyway, he talks about how the power of mind and speech makes us no different from the immortals. So the fact that we can think it, right, and then we can vocalize it, vibrationalize it. We have this here that we can take it and we can just believe it's for suckers is crazy.
Soon as you're done, I'm about to jump in on this. Go ahead. You got the floor though.
Yeah, and then we can take and then we can now move into the principle of rhythm, the principle of cause and effect, the principle of gender. You know, we're going down the hierarchy of the 7 principles. So go ahead, my brother.
Absolutely. Now, and I appreciate your wisdom on that. You know, let's go back to this comment from this gentleman named Chip Jackson. Shout out to Chip Jackson
Shout
out
out
there.
to Chip.
Belief is for suckers? Question mark, question mark, question mark. That's crazy. All right, so belief. So this is my own, and I'm going to apologize to everybody out there because this is my own writing in a way where I didn't give the proper context. I'm writing about belief is for suckers for those individuals who are stopping at that point. There's a lot of people who are stopping at belief. They're not getting to the point of knowing because knowing requires experience. Now you got to do some actual work. You got to make some sacrifice. You got to have some humility. All of those things have to happen for knowing, right? So no, belief isn't necessarily for suckers. There is a certain amount of belief that we need to have, but there's steps much further that we need to go onto. So I'm sticking with my post. Belief is for suckers. It's about knowing, but I want everybody out there to understand that yeah, we all need to find something that we believe in. We all need to have some type of doctrine. We all need to have ourselves, whatever it is that we're going to believe in, and then we need to go the next step to verify if what we believe in is truth.
And just the double dutch with my brother, you know, when I think about belief, I think about belief is like it's the starter, it's the hope, it's the hope for things that are unseen, and it's the reaching towards God. When you're, you know, most of the time, because you gotta think about just think about when this word is used within. Shout out to Chip. Just think about when this word is used within context. Even in the Bible, it's always saying like, "Are you a believer?" It's always like the question. It's not the answer yet. It's right. The thing, like, you know, well, you have to believe, you have to, it's the thing that keeps you going. Like I said, it's the thing that's conditioning the soil. When you see the roots are struggling, then you're adding your belief, you're adding your hope that this thing is. But then after a certain point, it does graduate. It graduates to a state of knowing, you know, when a believer doesn't even have to ask someone who believes in something whether they believe, because their state of knowingness supersedes the question to even say, what does this man believe? You know, when you see someone who's
saying right now,
when you see someone who's ripped up and who's, you don't even have to say, what do you believe? Because his walking in it is showing. So we're not saying that it's for suckers, but shout out to my brother. He's like me. We say different things to polarize just to get you to attract it. So then we can then thus break it further down for you to not get stuck in a system of, oh, I believe, or do you believe? I do believe. I do. It's, to me, when it's usually confessed or professed in this reality matrix, it's a step under the knowing. Once again, Neo was believing, but even when he went to the Oracle, his belief was not enough. He had Morpheus, he had his mastermind, he had Trinity, who was, you know, shaping him and helping him sift and purify himself. And he wouldn't be there. He wouldn't have took the red pill if he did not have belief. His belief was once again, the roots stretching, and his belief allowed the roots to keep on, but he didn't bear fruit yet, because when he was in the state of, go ahead, my brother. Go ahead.
I just want to rewind to what something you just said, right? You said, listen, belief, and then you're gonna get to the knowing. That was so powerful, because we all get to the knowing, but the knowing sometimes is not the truth, even though now we know, right? So I'll give an example. There's a whole lot of people who know that their ancestors came over here on a boat, worked for some people for hundreds of years, and didn't get paid properly for it. They know this.
Right.
right? How did they come into the knowing of this? And we don't have to actually answer these questions, but you get what I'm saying on these questions. They came into a knowing somehow. First step was belief, and then there's the others who come into belief, but then they do the real work. So their knowing is the actual truth. Go ahead.
And I appreciate the ping pong because you're saying something that's also sparking mine. I don't want to lose. So jump into whenever you need. But, and also we have to understand that even in the Bible, it does have a separation of belief. You know what I mean? Because Jesus was calling people to be believers. But then he said, then you would know. It's a process. You know what I mean? Then you will know the truth. Right. And then even that is also a comma. Then the truth will set you free. So it's not an all in one belief, knowing all that. It's even a process to knowing. And then this is where definitions are important. We broke down in the previous episode what is truth. Truth is original substance, right? So this is why we're in a world of false substance. So we're believing. We don't know it yet. You know what I mean? Because when we know it, we no longer are messing with the word of senses, because we understand the senses is the belief, is the evidence that we're trying to see what's in the contents of our mind. But to know is to go beyond what you see, because it's not truth, just means origin. We know that the mind is the truth. You know what I mean? So this is why Jesus said we are set free, because once you know the truth, you look upon the word of conditions and you say that is a word of belief.
Right.
I operate in the spirit of truth. I'm not getting lost in what I see, because I know that all that I see and all that I'm witnessing within my senses is actually the false. I'm not calling it imaginal or lesser, but it's a false world. The truth, the original world, is the one that is made in the mind. So this is why once you really understand and you move to a spirit of knowing and not believing, you stop looking at false evidence appearing real. You know what I mean? And you start to go to the truth and substance and understand those special hours that my boy Ferdinand carved out for us. The portals, those portal hours, those are the truth. Those are the origination of truth. Why? Because you're only about is true. Get out of the human understanding of what we think truth is. Truth means original substance. So we always understand when we're messing in the word of illusory, in the Maya, which we like. This is a word of belief, but it's not truth. It's not the original substance. So as long as we're playing with beliefs, we can never fully be set free, because we're messing with the word of illusion. So I just wanted to add that little tidbit.
Now I'm about to add to that tidbit as well. So often I like to bring books to the table. One of my newest favorite books is the Holy Koran of the Moorish Science Temple. Unfortunately, I'm not able to zoom in the way I like to on this. But so we're on chapter 7 here, and there is a portion in here where Jesus explains exactly what truth is. All
I
right,
see it.
so I
Jesus
will,
said, man is, I see it. Part 12.
and now go ahead, give it to us.
Okay. And it says, I'll read from the top. It says, the holy breath is the truth, and that which was and is and evermore shall be. It cannot be changed nor pass away. Lamech said, you answer, well, now, what is man? And this is important. And Jesus said, man is the truth in falsehood, strangely mixed. So when you're dealing with man, you're dealing with the one who can see the truth in the illusion, both in one vessel. This is what makes man so amazing. You know what I
The
mean?
divine paradox.
The divine paradox, the polarized man. And even Jesus, shout out to the Holy Quran, who he's okay, just to go above, he said the Holy Spirit is the truth, because it's what is. And once again, when you're talking about the Holy Spirit, you're talking about the mind. What I believe is the Holy Spirit is not just the mind. It's when we go into those special hours and we transverse through the mind. That is us using the Holy Spirit. And that's why anything the Holy Spirit sees or tastes or touches, it didn't create. It's only uncovered within the mind of the all. You know what I mean? And then when we're looking into the illusionary nature, once again, man is the light prison, which God, the Most High, that's beyond any, light and darkness, experiences itself through the Holy Spirit. It constricts itself into the light being, which is man, you know what I mean? And man, strangely, He has the power of the divine. He has the power. Because why does he have the power of the divine? Because he has the power of truth, but he knows not. What is the power of truth? He can think on his own thoughts, the origination substance of all things that is known to be made. You know what I mean? He has this uncanny ability to think on his own thoughts. And then, unlike God, once again, God is creating from up top lower. Man can go lower and he can go higher because he ate the fruit. He ate from the tree of good and evil, light and darkness. So man is a strange mixture, the strangest mixture, because he has the ability to allegedly but we know that somehow, even though if you don't know the truth, there's an objective truth. Well, we talked about this last episode. There's a subjective truth, but there's also an absolute truth. Man has the ability to strangely entangle himself with both truths of himself, the real truth and then the half truth or the illusionary truth. It's just the fact is we're getting too caught up in the senses. We're getting too caught up in what we can measure and what we can see, and we think the truth, which is the original substance, which is our subconscious mind and imaginational mind, we think that is the false. Someone to say, oh, that's just your imagination, that's just God. That's just God in action you're using, And then, as my boy Neville says, well, if that's just imagination, what can you point to in this beautiful, great world that wasn't just imagination at one point? Whether it's a building, whether it's the clothes that we're rocking, whether it's the machine that we're working on. So just to say, oh, that's just imagination, that's just saying, well, that's just the truth. That's just the thing that has set you free. If you actually went from a state of believing your senses to knowing the things that are unseen, to having faith, we know that faith just is not a pulling up a Bible and putting your hand on it. Faith is believing in evidence and finding evidence of things that have yet to appear, things that have yet to be seen, and then just to let my boy drop in on this. And also God calls us to act fully on the power of God. You're not acting fully. If you're being tossed around by your reality, you are still a believer. To be someone who is stepping in truth is to call things that are unseen as if they were, is to add a level of consciousality. I like making up words to your sub-creation, your subconscious creation.
Hey, Ra, I got to give you this one. Go, okay. You take this one, my brother.
I said, when we quote Jesus, are we not quoting a belief? Even the man we call Jesus is for believers. And there's also, shout out to Chip. I haven't seen him on here before, which is cool. One thing that we usually give the caveat, which we didn't yet, is that this, what we're talking about, this isn't for and once again, I love to debate topics like this, but this is high science. This is for adepts. This is for the alchemists. This is for people who don't even have a question like that. And no offense, that doesn't even have a question like that to propose, because we are beyond the ideology of even believing in a man called Jesus. Like, what is that? Who is that? You know what I mean? We are beyond the ideology of when we say, and this is, we did say this earlier, and I gave the caveat, and I don't know if you were on here, is that, don't confuse when we say certain words. We're using certain words just for like parables or just for storytelling aspect. But when I say God, when I say Jesus, when I say Christ or anything, we're not talking about any other person that ever existed outside of self. You know what I mean? We're talking about self. So shout out to the question. This is where the frequencies and vibrations is. But at this particular point, I can't even go down to where this question is or wherever this question lies to entangle with this. All I would say that we're talking about high science. We're talking about stuff that's for the in-depth and for the alchemists. And we already superseded and understand, even from previous episodes, that Jesus Christ is not a person. It's more so a pattern. It's more so an understanding. It's more so consciousness on which we're talking about here. You know what I'm saying? We're giving you the words of Christ here. We're telling you where the kingdom is. We're telling you, when you pray, believe as if you already have received, and you have. We're telling you that we talked about the power mind principle. We're telling you, when Christ said, if any two minds come together under one accordance, it's automatically given by the Father. So we're kind of superseding even your question. So I hope even my response kind of gives you the answers to the question, because it nullifies basically what you were talking about as far as the man we call Jesus and believers of Christianity, et cetera, et cetera. So if you want to add more sauce to it, you definitely can.
Absolutely. I want to add a little sauce to that. And I agree with you. We're up here talking high science at the end of the day. So this is transcending time. This is transcending a person. This is transcending prophets. What we're doing is we're aligning with the universe directly, but we're doing it in orator fashion. We're aligning with the golden ratio in orator fashion. right? So we're getting past all of that, right? We're not getting into debates on if Jesus is real or if Jehuti is real or any of that. Well, what we're for this episode, other
Yeah, so I
episodes.
said we might.
So for this episode, we're focused on auto-suggestion, and there's certain points of where Jesus makes sense to bring up in this conversation, and there's other points where Jesus doesn't relate, right? But if we are talking about auto-suggestion from a perspective of biblical doctrine and how it fits within biblical doctrine, then we start to bring up Jesus and talk about how he was helping people heal, because you had to use auto-suggestion to make that happen. It may not have been called that at that time. However, it is something that has been in existence for as long as, in my opinion, existence has been existence. But we just have called it by different names. So understand that what we're doing on this podcast, this Two Brothers and an Idea tandem, this combo, we're focused on uplifting the people, right? Giving them the ability to take these lessons that they have from multiple different disciplines and to utilize it to uplift themselves out of whatever condition that they're in. Because it's very challenging to go into these churches, to go into these temples, these synagogues, these mosques, and to listen to the pastor or to the sheikh. Sometimes it's challenging for people to be able to understand what they're saying, because they may be speaking high science, but a lot of the times they're not really speaking it from a practical standpoint. And then many other times they're not speaking it from a practical standpoint that they've walked themselves. So now they can speak it from a perspective of telling you about certain foods or telling you about certain activities. And it's things that they have went through. They have walked this path, my brother.
And shout out to you, Ferdinand, and when you speaking that, and another thing that they're doing, right, and this is why the spirit is so restless within religion, is that you're going to people who keep making little figurines of people, and they're putting everywhere God outside of yourself, God outside of yourself, God outside of yourself. You guys have been rocking us for these episodes. We just been giving you a different truth that is showing you, just like Christ did, that the God that you're searching for outside of self actually is self, the one that you are seeking to deliver you. When Christ said, I am the way, I am the light, there's no one that comes to the Father but through me. He's telling you, he's showing you the reverse genetics of the genealogy on how do you get to the Father. When he told you, when I can't believe who was Peter, Paul, someone asked him, can you just show us the Christ? And he said, I've been teaching you this thing, and I'm telling you, you see me. How can you say, show us the Father? So this is why, once again, to not get caught in religious dogma, right? When it comes to the so-called teachings of Jesus, because when you get caught in religious dogma, you can see it clearly. Once again, Ferdinand sent me the scripture from the Holy Quran before, when it said, Jesus tell us one of the greatest mysteries. I'm paraphrasing, and he said that Allah and man are one. You know what I mean? So he's telling it to you plain, but since the dawn of time, everyone has shown you that God is outside of self. You're reading the truth, but you don't know the truth. I came to my people, and they received me not. You know what I mean? He's coming. It said that God said, and also in the Bible, that I will rise the truth in one amongst you. The one amongst you is coming to you and said, are ye not sons of God? Does your scripture not say something? And you're rejecting it. You're rejecting it, so much to the where the man came and told you, you're going to do greater works than I. And you still pedestalize. You still could not believe that man could come in a man's form. And if you look at all the great men of the Bible outside of Jesus, if you look at David, Saul, Abraham, you know what I mean? These were men that did heinous acts, but even despite their acts, God still blessed them and gave them more than what we think that he should have. Solomon, they had wives, they had all type of transgressions, but once again, their ability to so-called seek after the truth, after wisdom, circumvented even their mistakes. You know what I mean? Even their mistakes. So once again, this is why we say when we do the shows, this is definitely high science. So we definitely we appreciate those questions. But when we're talking about Jesus and these characters, these are more so placeholders, because we told you guys what the truth was 4 or 5 episodes back. But we are to understand that there's a good spell that has to be happening because we're in such a deep spiritual deadening, you know what I mean, that I can reveal to you who it was, but we still have to go through the process of just repeating it in different forms. So even when we're using these analogies, we understand that reason why we use them, because some of these things sneak past the subconscious. Because if we tell it to you plain, they're gonna be in there trying to scrap. You know what I mean? So we're trying to sneak past the ego, the conscious mind, the guard, and tell you stories and parables. And whatever reason, the subconscious likes stories told indirectly. Why? Because you're dealing with the subconscious and you're dealing with the feminine, and you're not dealing with the directiveness. You're dealing with something that has to be schmoozed, that has to be led, that has to be coerced, that has to be seduced, because the true essence of man is his subconscious mind, and it is the feminine mind. So yeah, absolutely, my brother. Just to add some sauce to what you were saying.
I don't know if you could see that, but that is the equation for a parabola.
Break that down, brother.
Might be hard to see, but that is the equation for a parabola for everybody out there. And understand that that parabola, that mathematical equation that you see right there, is exactly how parables are created. This
Wow.
is how we have the truth slightly intersected, and we can enter some things, and then we can get it on over to the people. So it's the intersect happens right
Wow.
here.
And it's creating
Okay.
different data points.
And
You
then
know what I
the
mean?
line is still moving to intersect here. So now we've influenced the information, and it still sounds very similar to the actual truth.
Yeah, that see, no, that's important. So yeah, man, just to conquer that, when we use these names, God, Jesus Christ, source, being though that we already went over the Kabbalion, and we know that all is mind, and we're in this mind. You know what I mean? We're a prism of the all that is temporarily, using all of us. It's not using one of us, it's using all of us. You know what I mean? So when we talk about, certain things like Jesus Christ, Christianity, and we're using these biblical references, we're not using them as religious dogma. We're using them as also, as further proof and evidence that maybe what you have been told that it was saying might be slightly different than what is actually saying. You know what I mean? And looking at the Bible more as an esoteric thing that only those who can really hear or see can actually read and see. And what we're doing, which I feel like is, we're continuing being the Judas, betraying the secrets, giving up the Messiah, that while somehow the so-called book of the Christ is here, and he took God out of the temple, put it inside of you, and here we are allegedly 2,000 years later, and we're still, when we hear God, Christ, we're still placing them outside of us. We still don't fully believe that the kenosis that God experienced when he became flesh, when the word was made flesh. And we still don't really understand that we're never talking about anything else outside of us. We're talking about inside of us. And we're talking about the strange mixture, as the Quran said, of man. We're talking about a man who somehow has his head in the clouds, but also his feet on earth. And somehow he doesn't stay in either or. Somehow he knows both. He knows heaven and hell and everything else in between. I totally understand that. I am that I am. Exodus, it is written. Absolutely. And once again, because just to shout out to you, Chip, with that, when Moses needed a mediator, he was so nervous within self. He was so unassuming of self. I stutter, this, that, and the third. All right. He's talking to this allegedly burning bush. You know what I mean? And it's telling him to do something. And then he said, all right, cool. When I go, who will I say sent me? You know what I mean? And the thing told him, you are sending yourself. I am sent me. My own I. You cannot say I am. And if I say, yo, I am sleepy, I'm not talking about no one else. You know what I mean? If it's like, yo, how you got here? I drove myself. I am. So even when you said that, Chip, that the Exodus, yes, the breaking of the generational cycle, I am sent to me. So just think about it. When he did come to Pharaoh and he named a God, Pharaoh mind couldn't think, oh, he said, I am. Oh, let me think of a God outside of himself. He wasn't battling, and he was going against Moses. Moses was oh, you're right, Moses. Let me just let you go out the way and let me go talk to I am. He automatically assumed, all right, if you are coming in this form of I am, obviously you're his messenger. You know, obviously you're made in the image, and obviously you're so-called dawned with this power because you're not showing me anyone else. You're coming with your staff and your brother and your words and your commands. You're not even showing me the invisible. But when we understand this high signs, we understand anything that has been made visible is confessing its invisibility to you. This is why Christ always said, when people were trying to say, show me the Father, show me the I am. And he's like, how can you say, show me the I am, and I'm telling you who I am is? You know, how can you show me the image of the thing that I was made of when I'm showing you the image that you were made of? Man is a self-recursing, reflecting self. In divinity and man, you cannot separate the two, because why? You cannot separate man from his mind. But you know, if man has a mind, and the principle is telling us that all is mind, you can see how he was made in the image, the imagination of God. Man is made in his own likeness of his own mind, and his mind in the human, as Jesus said, it's a strange mixture. It is. It's a paradox, you know. And even shout out to you, Chip, shout out to A, shout out to Lou. It's so much of a paradox that we are men, and we're arguing about Jesus and God and where is God and the truth, and we are it. We are the truth. You know what I mean? So it is a strange mixture, and this is why we're even here today. We're not saying anything new, as Jesus Christ said, I didn't come to throw the scripture out, I came to fulfill it. We're coming in that same spirit. We're not here to change it. We're just here to fulfill it and keep taking God out of the temples. We're taking him out of the animal sac. We're taking him out of any condition, and we're placing that energy back into you. And Chip, when your lawyer or your bank or your relation, anyone say, yo, who sent you? And they're trying to see whose son are you. You don't even have to name your genealogy. You don't have to name who sent you. You could just say, I am sent me. I came on my own free will. Why? Because I realize who and what I am. So since I realized who and what I am, I realized autosuggestion, I realized everything that the Hermetic Principles was telling me. Now I am the polarized man. If you didn't watch that show, definitely tune into that. Now I am the polarized man. And when you reach the polarized man and you understand the I am that I am, you need no other sender. There is no return to sender on the address. Your own consciousness within your own self is enough. And I'll let you go, my brother. I did that my little soliloquy.
You know, you said something that really hit me. It really resonated. You quoted a verse in the Bible, or a portion of the Bible, that said, I came, but y'all receive me not. I've been living that for the last 7 years.
Yeah.
I think it's probably pretty hard for people to watch somebody come up on a donkey and other people say that that's the King of Kings. I think it's kind of hard for people to see somebody who don't have the nicest clothes and the dopest car and all that other kind of stuff, and still be able to notice who they are. Well, you're never going to be able to do that unless you know who you are. So when someone who knows who they are walks in the room, and they know what they're supposed to be giving in a message, and they know that you should be listening, they're going to understand, if you know who you are, if you're able to recognize who they are. You
Man, that is, man, listen, man. And that is the ultimate testament. Even in the Bible, it talks about, you know, when you see him, you shall know him, because you shall be like him and he shall be how he is, you know. So this is, and shout out to, even once again, the Bible tells us that, you know, there's no honor amongst prophets, even in his own household. Why? Because when God said, I'm going to rise one up from amongst you, and he will be your leader, he will point you to the Christ, the God, the hidden man, right? And you're so lowly because all these other old Abrahamic religions put God outside of you, right? Because it said, who is man that you made him lower than the heavens and lower than the angels? And we were taught that that was a punishment, right? We were taught that this was something, since we are lower than God and we are lower than angels, then man itself must be a lowly being. And that may or may have not been the truth at a particular time. But then we go back to the Old Testament and we understand that there was then a new prophecy that was being prophesied, right? And there was always, once again, man wasn't about man ascending. It wasn't about he who ascended. It was about he who descended, he who took on the curse, of man. And then Ferdinand, shout out to him when he talks about the tail becoming the head and the last becoming the first, and another person who we have to eventually talk about is the Melchizedek. You know what I mean? So we just have to understand is that every time these things of divinity, even once again, they said that God appeared as an angel and he wrestled with Israel. What's his name? Jacob. He wrestled with. So we have to understand is that even in the Bible, in Genesis, it said that Adam walked with God and talked with God. So we have to really just, I'm saying it's over repetition because what we think God is, he's always presented himself as a person in the Bible, whether it was his prophets, whether it was the Melchizedek, whether it was Jesus Christ himself. When God, even Moses, he went to, they said he saw a face. How can a spook have a face? You know what I mean? And once, shout out to Ferdinand, because when Moses entangled with God's face, he knew it was God's face. What happened to Moses' face when he came down from the mountain? Even the people couldn't see him.
You hitting on some stuff, bro.
Because it's a understanding. So this is why when it says, I came to them and they received me not, because the thing that you're waiting to save you, when it comes upon you, is going to look so much like you. He's going to be sinful. He's going to have all these flaws. Right. And since you're still worshiping the God of the Old Testament before the one who descended, the one who looked down upon creations and cursed it and smite it because it wasn't exalted in his position and wanted us to live to a laws that we'll all fall short of because we are placed lower than the heavens. We are placed lower than the earth. So how can we behold to a polarized stipulation that only exists in a certain place? So what did he have to do to make it right? The he who cursed had to become the curse, had to descend down the tree of life into the base. You know what I'm saying? But it also gives us a full prophecy because he promised redemption, redeeming. You know what I mean? So the descending was to come to get to bring up. But once again, even in the Bible, it never took us off this planet. It told us that the heavens of Jerusalem was going to be made on earth for whatever reason, whatever divinity that we think we is, it kenosis himself, which means it emptied itself to fully come into this realm, right? And everything that man was going to get, he wasn't going to get in a newer form. Even though he might be in this world, be renewed with mind and spirit, he's walking around with a light body, he's still a man. He's still a man. You know what I mean? Because man is God. So that's one of the points that I want you to guys kind of understand, because if you just accept that one truth, when we're talking about all these other little mini truths, that's the absolute truth, right? These are the mini truths now that we're trying to get you. Now that you know the truth, now we're showing you in us ourselves how to be set free. Free is for man to now know where God resides. And now he doesn't have to be ruled by outside laws because God wrote the law inside of him. So when you're still under the jurisdiction of an outside law and one that makes you fall short to glory of God, you cannot exercise the free will that humanity was really promised. This is the whole redemption story. You know what I mean? Now, once we know who God is and what God is and how it works, autosuggestion, the mind is God, God is mind. Now we can truly exercise free will because we've been in a stupor. You know, we've had a reprobate mind. You know, we've been so long cursed dealing with the world of senses, questioning. We're dealing in the world of senses, questioning, well, who is the one who created? Not knowing you can never see the one who created it. You can only see what has been created. And when you see what has been created, it reveals the one who created it. Go ahead, my brother.
I really appreciate everything you just brought to the table because shout outs to Roth Driver, everybody out there. Thank y'all for tuning in. Please hit the comments, please share, please like, please comment, please show some love. I really want to show some appreciation to my brother because he brought to my attention, I had heard about Stockholm Syndrome before, but I hadn't really dived into it, right? And pieces of what you just talked about, in my opinion, are effects of that cause, right? So when we look at autosuggestion and everything that Ra was just giving us, how do we get to these points of misinterpreting it? this information of our ancient ancestors? How do we get there, right? Autosuggestion is part of how we got there. What we believe is something we communicated to ourselves. What we know is something we communicated to ourselves. Keep in mind the beginning of any for anybody who didn't catch the beginning of the podcast today, episode 26 on autosuggestion. We started with the dictionary definition on auto and suggest, right? And I'm gonna put it back on the screen. And this is actually listed in Think and Grow Rich on chapter 4, like the very first, I think it's the very first sentence. Autosuggestion is a term which applies to all suggestions and all self-administered stimuli which reach one's mind through the five senses. Understand that the misinterpretation or the abundance of correct interpretation is all as a result of what you tell yourself. And you're going to tell yourself very specific things pending what you are consuming in suggestion, pending where you are in your vibrational frequency, right? Pending where you are moving consistently in the higher or the lower, or maybe a balance, right? It just depends on how it is you are living, and then those suggestions that come in. And see, you got to keep in mind that as these suggestions come in, right, you got this right between my fingers, you got a machine, okay? So suggestions come in over here, then they go through this machine and they got to do all of this, they got to get processed and everything, and then they come out over here, right? So this could be looked at as human behavior, right? But that's all as a result of what you chose to believe and what you have come to know about who you are. Pending what you believe and know about yourself is going to determine what happens over here on the output of that energy that came in over here. But it's got to come through the machine first, just like any other machine. It's got to be processed, right?
Yeah, and you just you keep that up because you just helped me once again. This is, you guys are watching purity in action. You are watching the mastermind principle, because a lot of these things I'm going on, it's like he's triggering, and then and I know I'm doing the same for him. So whenever you feel the urge, brother, please jump in. But even when you're talking about the five senses, right? And we have to understand, this is why knowing about these hidden senses, these six senses, these things have to come into our equilibrium in our minds, because even when we're talking about senses, it just hit me. The five senses is trying to figure out, it's trying to make sense. And shout out to you, my brother. Let me, I gotta be able to look at you real quick so that we can, so you can, you know what I'm saying? And I can even know when you need to jump in. But the five senses, when we're talking about senses, these are things that are interpreting truth, original substance, and then it questions, it's trying to make sense of it. Where did this come from? So somehow in this dance that we've been in, and I think it's, shout out to you, I think it's because of the zodiac. I think in different parts of the zodiac, man's senses, some become denser, some become things. So we've been in a certain law where we've forgotten about the sixth sense, which we know reality, right? We've already written 9 ink, but the spirit of the living God, not on tablet stone. Come on, my brother Chip. Absolutely. So, and just to dive into what he said real quick, to base on what I said, the Old Testament, the old era was of stone tablets. It placed God in our hand. Moses didn't come down with the message that Christ came down with. Moses came down saying, here's your God. He pointed to it. By the time he can come down the mountain and point to a God, the people below beat him to it. As above, so below. He's up there communing with God. God is presenting himself as self outside of self. Moses came down showing them God. They came down, showed him a golden calf. They beat him to the punch. Before they can even worship his stone tablets, which was outside of himself in the old Mosaic law, they already made themselves an external worship of a golden calf. You know what I mean? What we're talking about is getting out of this. When we're trying to make sense with senses, this is a form of idolatry. We're dealing with a false God, a false image. Why are we trying to make sense of the falsality when we can just go to the origination? We can go to the original substance, which we already understand that the original substance is something made of mind. You know what I mean? So we've just been in a sort of a stupor, which the Bible predicts. That's why I say, man, this book is a simulacrum or something, because when you read it, you start to understand. Now we're moving into the age of the 144. Now we're moving into the age of the sages. Now we're moving to the state of absolute truth, where absolute truth is spilling through vessels like me, Ferdinand, Chip, Ace, all of us, right? It's spilling through us, and now it's getting us out of the needing to make sense, because you cannot be the paradoxical, the polarized man when you operate in the world of senses, when you need things to make sense, when you need to understand. We come from the origin. Truth is an inner stand. Then it reaches our eyes, then we don't understand. We forget the maker. As Neville Goddard said, it's like, as Ferdinand likes to do, it's like going in the mirror, seeing your natural face, and then you turn around and you say, well, what's this? Who's this picture? Who's this guy? Who? So we've been in that stupor, and I'm gonna let my man cook in a second, but we're moving into a different age where we know reality. We know truth. So we know, if I am sensing something with this, I am not trying to figure this out. I'm trying to go to the origin of the mind, the original substance, the thing that preceded, the thing that we are actually bearing witness to. And now I am not on my knees worshiping the paint. Does the painter worship his artwork more than he worships himself? Surely the painter must be greater than the thing that he produced. We're looking at things that was produced by original substance, and we're in awe and wonder of it, instead of going to the true source, which was the mind, which was the subconscious, which was the auto-suggestions. We are looking at flesh and not understanding that word was made flesh. We think flesh is somehow making the words. You know what I mean? So I'm gonna let my brother cook, but I just had to leave with that tidbit. And just say this too, just for what Chip said, when God's promised, after a period of time of living under the Abrahamic Mosaic law, and he promised that this new covenant I won't write on stone tablets, and he said, I'm going to take out the stone hearts that they had, and I'm going to give them a heart made of flesh and made of blood. And then he also said, for the chosen ones, I'm going to write my name on their foreheads. I'm going to write the name of God on their foreheads. Why? So when they see the reflection, they can see who has been the true causality of the effects of the world that they've been living in. So once again, guys, this is high science that we're diving into together collectively. Shout out to all y'all that's helping purify us, because this is a purification session. But this is high science that we're talking about. And now the man is going to show you what he's showing you right now with this.
Thank you for your wisdom. Everybody out there is tuning in. Really appreciate y'all. This is Two Brothers and an Idea. We're on episode 26. It's about auto-suggestion, and we're walking this path together of everlasting life more abundantly. In that process, I want to be very clear with everyone that we got some special things that's happening around the world. It's not just with Ra and myself. Ra and myself, we've come together and we've got this great synergy that's happening. Well, why? Why is that great synergy just naturally happening, right? And shout out to Tat Lover VA. Tat. I'm not sure if it's Tat Loose.
Yeah,
Loose.
tattoo Lou Thriver. That's what it says.
Tattoo Lou Thriver. My guy. Appreciate you. Right. So when we think about how relationships are just having this boost, and I've even had this boost with my sons. I've had a better connection with my sons in the last week or two, and it's been a great feeling. I've been very thankful for that. Well, where is that coming from? Well, that's relationships. That's beauty. That's aesthetics. What planet represents that? Venus. Venus is right now, according to 8:29, 8 p.m. 8:29 and 35 seconds p.m. today. It's at 24 degrees Pisces. Now, why is that important? Because Venus is exalted in Pisces. So it's getting a boost of energy. Now, it's in conjunction, which could be considered a rebirth. Right now, it's in a 3-degree conjunction with Neptune. Neptune is at 27 degrees Pisces. Now, why is that significant? Because Neptune rules Pisces. So you got the planet that is exalted in Pisces and the planet, one of the planets that rules Pisces, both in a conjunction in Pisces. This is a rebirth of how we look at relationships, beauty, and aesthetics, and how we uncover hidden information. Neptune is the planet of revealing esoteric and occult information. It's also the planet of high intellectual advancements and things of that nature. But let's look at it from the perspective of revealing hidden information. Well, that's what we do on Two Brothers and an Idea, and we do it in a special synergy, right? Because earth and water are complementary, right?
Mm,
So Ferdinand is heavily on the on the Taurus side, right? And then my brother Ra is heavily on the Scorpio side, right? But when we take what Sister Myra Moss gave us, which she told us, hey, listen, she said, I look at the zodiac as 6 axes of energy. I don't look at it as 12 individual signs anymore. And
mm,
so I would make Taurus and Scorpio one,
mm,
positive and negative, male
mm,
and female,
mm.
uh, water and earth, values and transformation.
Which adds to the principle of gender, which is always at play, which then thus creates this communication, that we're having here. So, and shout out to Ferdinand, I just want to say this too, man. When you start to read the Bible, you understand that humanity is under divine grace, right? Which meaning that this is how
Yes.
you can rectify, why is this happening? What have I? Some people feel like some people are getting messages right now that they're shameful to vocalize because of their condition, because of their situation, and they have the truth of God flowing in their mouth, but they think since their money's not this, or since I'm doing this, and since I'm doing this, I don't have the right to speak these things. But we don't understand that this divinity and this forgiveness that we're giving, it was chosen before we even could understand that we chose ourselves. You know what I mean? It really isn't a thing that is made off of works. It's just written in the stars. It's predestined. You know what I mean? And they said that at some point, and once again, he said that these things are in Pisces, which we understand that return of Christ consciousness, Jesus was the Piscean. You know what I mean? So you see how all the thing is starting to really understand. And also said, all knee shall bow, all tongue shall confess, I am Lord. So once again, this was predicated. It said all. So that means this is not predicated on someone's work. This is a plan and a story of redemption that we're watching in real time. That and it has to be. Why? Because we just went through an age where we were only, and once again, I call this the curse of Adam. We were cursed for a periodic period where we had to toil, and we could not work with the heavenly regions we were working with before. We had to work with matter. We have to actually carve things out and then look at it and reason what it is. Now we're moving into a different age where the truth is coming back, which means original substance. So God always said that he was going to get us paradise. It's my good pleasure to give you the kingdom. So he never said that he was going to take us out of this 3D realm and put us into another realm, but he was going to give us a new body to be the operant memorandum in this new realm, right? So when you're looking at false images, which is you're looking at an effect, oh my God, I got to deal with this, versus now in this new age, you use the spirit of neutralization. You become the polar, right? Because the information is now being revealed to you. So when you are seeing truth outside of self, that's really a false image. You're not going to engage with it within the same way. Not saying that you're not special, right? Because we are special, but we've been chosen. We've been chosen. So there is when you understand that, then you understand what me and Ferdinand has been talking about, how we're going to people that we know, and since they know us or they knew a version of us and they hear this new information come out, they refute it because they don't know scripture. They don't know that it was never going to be someone who does not look like you. They always said the person who was, it's the Antichrist. It's someone that's going to had the same experiences you had, went through the same troubles, had the same region, maybe had the same mother you had, maybe, because who else can help you besides someone? This is why Christ descended into the world and he took on the sins of man. That's the only way that he can help man. When God was separating himself through man, and how was he doing it? Through judgment. Would he judge? He judged within created. But when he became, what did Jesus Christ do? Man did this, turn the other cheek. No matter what the person would do, he would say, Father, forgive them, because they know not what they do. You know what I mean? So there was a certain enlightenment, and he was telling you about an age to come. So we understand when Jesus came and he professed who he was, he understood not everyone was going to get it, but don't worry, because I'll be back during this Aquarian age. You know what I'm saying? I'll be back. And then I'm going to put you into a state of frequency. Not all of you, because we already understand it wasn't going to be all, but I was going to put you in a state like, shout out to Chip, Lou, Ace, the 144, and I'm going to remove the seal. And revelation isn't a period of time. It can happen at any moment. We just so happen to be in a state of revelation, but guess what? There's some people here that's still in the state of Genesis, and we can't judge them. We can't judge them. You know what I'm saying? We're just in a state of revelation, and it said when you will be, there will be certain seals that will be removed in the same good books that we're revealing. Now we're like, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit. And then this is how you know, Chip. Shout out to Chip, everyone else. You know when you're in the spirit of revelation, when you are thinking about these deities and you're now not placing them outside of self. When you hear these thoughts, the universe, God, and all these things, and you're still placing them outside of self, shout out to Chip, you're still living under the old faith. You still have a heart of stone. You're still looking at the tablets. You're still trying to look outside, something outside of you to show you where God is. Please, is it in the 10 commandments? Is it in this? Is it in the Metu Neter? Is it you're looking up book after book after book when it said that man was going to become the living book? Man was going to become the living scripture, and you would not have to look to hear. Christ told you, yo, someone said, yo, go read this book. Go read this book. These are no longer the Pharisees. They kept trying to hit him with book. He was hitting them with oration, and because these things are going away. And then he said, shout out to Ferdinand. He said, my father's house has many mansions, and I'm going to go. This is once again telling you, I'm here. I'm telling you the truth. I'm going to go and prepare a place. And when I come back, I'm going to draw you into me. This is the spirit of revelation. When I come back, I'm going to then thus make your separate mind my mind. We're going to join. I'm going to show you faith. Faith is the evidence of things that are unseen and the merging of these things. You know what I mean? So shout out to, once again, when Chip said that, and this is how I'm decoding it. When he said that he's going to take the tablets of stone, that's because the original older man, he put God, he put the law. This is the law. He put the law outside of him. And Chip, if you know that the scripture for that, he said, then I'm gonna put the law inside of man, and they're going to become the law. So this is what, and then it also says, shout out to Ferdinand when he talked about this before. It also had another prophecy. Then the tail will be the head, which is showing you the redemptive nature of man and what man is. You know what I mean? And it'll show you how, when they say man's are gods or man, yes. And any time that you're trying to then say, oh, the universe, and then you speak of the universe like it's out there, you're under old law. Anytime you say a man must toil and sacrifice for what he wants, you're under the law of Adam. Adam 2.0 does not have to work with his senses. He can think things in his mind, think and grow rich, and he can watch his whole world reorganize itself. This transmission is evidence of that. I didn't know Ferdinand, but what I started to do is just be more, as Ferdinand says, my truer vibration, which is authenticity. And then look at what the so-called universe, which is not out there, my inner self, is then attracting to me certain situations and certain people, so that, we can get out the message, or the message can get me out. I don't know which one it is at this point. Am I trying to get the message out, or the message trying to get me out? But this allows this transmission so we can be the Christ 2.0, and we're cutting through all the religious dogma again, and we're placing God, the temple, back inside of man. And then that's not it. We're also giving you, like this, the practicality, the AutoSuggestion, how man can then form his things in his likeness. Because once again, shout out to the fellas that's on here. And me and Ferdinand talked about this, I think, offline. We can all agree. This is why God made man in everything his image, and he deemed it good. When you are living in a reality, and when you look into your world of senses, and you're trying to reason, why don't these things look like you? Why don't these things mirror you? Why don't these things? Because you're not working with the full power of Christ. When we work with the full power of Christ, Christ molds all things in his image. Even if the thing appears dead, he said, she is not dead. She is asleep. I'm saying he refused to look at the world of senses of what someone else told him was, and allowed himself to believe. He had a certain polarized neutralization. Even when things were brought up to him in one way, he acknowledged them in the way that he preferred, and then thus had the reality. And even once again, shout out to the lady, I can't remember the full story, but the lady who touched him, and he was walking in a crowd of people, and he said, who touched me? And his disciples are like, are you crazy? Everyone's touching you. He said, no, I felt someone touched me with a knowing, with the belief, because I felt the power leave out of me, right? And then he turned and he saw that it was lady, and he said that your faith has healed you. Your faith has healed you. Go and sin no more. it wasn't the fact that she wasn't going to go out and like an innocent child. They tell her to be child of God and do things that, you know, have different effects. It was the fact that she wasn't going to live in a world of sin, which is self-condemnation. You know what I'm saying? She's no longer going to look at the things that she do and think these things are separate of God. So therefore I must be sinning. She's going to accept her divinity as whole. You know what I mean? And that's all I have to kind of say with that little that little run right there. You know what I mean?
You was cooking, man. you on it.
We still
I
got
think
more to chapter 2 of the book too
absolutely. We
we got
about
to
to dive
finish up.
right back into it. But before we go back into it, I wanna give a lot of thanks to everybody who's tuned in, who's listening. Thank you very much. Please keep hitting the comments. Listen, y'all got some great input. There's some great questions that are coming from everybody. Listen, let's grow together. You got anything that you got, you want to give us in wisdom, or you want to ask a question, go ahead and throw it in there. We're gonna put it on the screen. We're gonna address it. Right. And here goes one right. Oh, my man Ace Thriver. Yes. Ra's over here cooking, man, but rightfully so. Listen to the name, Ra. So let's go ahead and pull the book back up real quick, and let's get back in there because they got some more information in there we need to touch.
Yeah, that chapter is amazing, man.
Absolutely. Do you remember where I left off at?
Oh yeah, if you bring it back up. Yeah, so we left after by comparing these two instructions. Yeah, so
right here,
yeah,
right?
remember, yeah.
This is a fact of such importance as to warrant repetition in practically every chapter, because the lack of understanding of this is the main reason the majority of people who try to apply the principle of autosuggestion get no desirable results. Plain, unemotional words do not influence the subconscious mind. You will get no appreciable results until you learn to reach your subconscious mind with thoughts or spoken words which have been well emotionalized with belief. Do not become discouraged if you cannot control and direct your emotions the first time you try to do so. Remember, there is no such possibility as something for nothing. Ability to reach and influence your subconscious mind has its price, and you must pay that price. You cannot cheat, even if you desire to do so. The price of ability to influence your subconscious mind is everlasting persistence in applying the principles described here. You cannot develop the desired ability for a lower price. You, and you alone, must decide whether or not the reward for which you are striving, the money consciousness, is worth the price you must pay for it in effort. Wisdom and cleverness alone will not attract and retain money, except in a few very rare instances where the law of averages favors the attraction of money through these sources. The method of attracting money described here, I'm going to give it to you in just a second. The method of attracting money described here does not depend upon the law of averages. Moreover, the method plays no favorites. It will work for one person as effectively as it will for another. Where failure is experienced, it is the individual, not the method, which has failed. If you try and fail, make another effort, and still another, until you succeed.
So many bars on this, man. So many bars on this, man. It's just further proof positive, right? That a man cannot, whatever your hands have gotten you, that's all it's going to get. If you think that you're toiling and that your actions is going to get you into a new place, unfortunately, this is just not how this place is. The actions is the proof positive of the faith or the thing that you believe. The things that you take action on is determining where your faith lies, and how the actions demonstrate fruit is a result of what you are truly believing internally inside. And as Ferdinand said earlier, it's your self-conception of self. This is why they said you and you alone. This is why they said you can't cheat it, because Neville Goddard always says, you know, where you live is what you get. At the end of the night, when no one's paying attention, after you took your mask off, you're done playing all the different personality ego wash for people, and that person that's just by himself and how he feels about himself. That's the true you. Where you live, your home, in your heart. So only you can, once again, temporarily put illusions of things to make it appear that it is something, right? But the truth will remain. Why? Because you and you alone have to sit with your own truth of your inadequacy. that you know that you feel, and that you might think that you're putting on the front because you're temporarily have other people, oh, Rod's doing good, or Ferdinand and the third. But when you go home at night, you know you're not living where you want to live, and you're just pulling a temporary wool over your eyes, and really not the universe. But the universe is going to pay you back with that lonely feeling you get at the end of the night, when you feeling not connecting, when you feeling I should be doing more, when you're feeling, that's how the universe pays you back the price, and your heart unfolds back onto you. So this is why, and I stress this, is that it's not going to come from your works. When we're talking about using Christ and the power of God, you're talking about grace. You're talking about unearned manifestation and efforts if you follow the right law. And you would know that it's not no like strange phenomena. It's just the way that this reality works. And you have to have a certain level of, not even have to have a certain level, you have to have a full understanding of the thoughts that's going on in your mind, the particular way that they're being arranged, your inner emotionality to these thoughts. When you say, like, if you look at what is, I look at my room, do I think, man, I shouldn't be in this room, or man, I should be in this room? Or when you look at your bank account, what is the trigger? You open up your bank account, do you think, man, this is enough money, man, this isn't enough money? You know what I mean? These are the secret triggers that we don't know. And since we don't know that, we're dealing with the falsity of reality. We look at the trigger, our heart emotionalize, even sometimes our voice emotionalize a lower frequency, and then we leave it in the false world because we don't know the truth. We're still trying to believe. So since we believe, we're falling short of the glory. You know what I mean? Because the glory is a knowing. Right. The glory is to work in the world of senses, the things that need to make sense, and know that paradoxically, this isn't the world of truth. This isn't the reality, because reality and truth just means original substance. So when I'm saying reality, I'm not to say that the Kabbalion is saying that this word is not real. I'm just using under its true definition. When reality just means not original substance. What is the original substance? The original substance is mind. And what is mind? Mind is mimicking the same thing that we're experiencing in the 3D reality. The only thing about it is that you cannot change the reality from the 3D reality. You have to go in the mind. You have to take that ethereal man that's moving through life in these certain circumstances that you don't even know. You don't know. You don't know that the everyday realities of your life is that there's an invisible man that's moving through these worlds in your imagination as this person, and you're just observing in the 3D what that invisible man is imagining. And if you could just go into be the polarized master, you understand certain principles of truth. And as Ferdinand said, you use these beautiful days. And I'll add one more time. I'll add midday, because yes, it's good when we're already sleepy because we can use it, but it's also beautiful when you can purposely, with intent, produce the state purposely, which we call meditation. And we're going 3 times a day, I would say, if you really want to be the polarized master. Maybe once you so-called manifest what you want, you can go back to 2, but I would say let's bump it up to 3 at morning, at night, and then a midday, whatever you want, and then to purposely put yourself in a state. And then now, you know, you're dealing with the true man. You're dealing with the original substance. When this body steals itself and the I am knowingness of God comes over to you, which is really his mind. We're dealing in the world of shadows when we're dealing with physicality. And we understand to the level, as Christ said, we're strangely mixed with this reality that we can't untether ourselves. So it's okay. But at certain times in the day, we have to go into the true source. And guess what? This source is so powerful with faith of a mustard seed. Mustard seed didn't mean small faith. My shout out to my boy Ferdinand. If you know anything about a mustard seed, the seed is so small, but when it sprouts. So he was just saying that you could take a very small idea, right? And meditate on this idea. Go into your true God, your true redeemer, which is your redeemer is your ability to polarize. And that thing that Ferdinand also read also had another thing, is that it's also talked about negatively. If you're saying things with no energy, don't expect the subconscious to accept it, which is cool, but it's also showing you how neutralization works. So you can still use that to benefit you, which is that there's something that's happening. I'm not speaking about it with no energy. Right now I'm speaking energy, but the real man, he uses it for both, about things he likes and dislikes. He uses neutralization, and he doesn't give it no polarization when it affects. So therefore it allows it to die off, because you didn't let your subconscious react to, oh, this happened. Oh, this happened. And it's not about the thing that happened. Remember, causality works outside of certain planes that we don't even understand. It's about how you react to the effect. And I said this before on Facebook, it's not about what we attract. Once you understand that you're in the mind of the all, you're going to attract all type of situation. It's what you polarize and what you accept that determines, right? And I'll say this to my alchemists out here, all of us, and I'm talking to myself too. We cannot expect that we'll reach a certain level of polarization where the illusion will only show us one version of it. That's violating spiritual law. That's violating spiritual law. We have to come to a level that the reality is going to show us all types of things, but we don't have to accept it. I don't have to be polarized by it. I can just be the observer, non-judgmental, don't give it no type of frequency, and just confirm I am that I am. Unfortunately, or fortunately, this place is has everything that could be contained. But you, as a polarized person, a fragment of the many, you don't have to be subjected to everything. And I say subjected, not what you witness, but what you magnify. Let's say, I think that's a better word, because we're going to bear witness to all types of shit. You know what I mean? But it's what you magnify with the integument. Shout out what my brother Lou said, just regurgitating from the book. Subconscious mind recognize and acts only upon the thoughts that have been well mixed with emotion and feeling. So this is why when we read from the Hermetic principle, he can tell you one thing to avoid one thing, but we can use it because it works for everything. So not only is it good to how to program the subconscious mind, this is also telling you how neutralization works. So guys, when certain things pop up in your existence that you don't prefer or that you don't want, you have to control those emotions and feelings and how you feel about it. Because if you don't, you're reconstructing it back into reality. Because when you add emotionality to it, now you're adding the quantum entanglement. Now you're doing what Ferdinand is saying. The receiver is receiving something. Now you're decoding it with emotions. You're saying, all right, let's unpack it. Let's look at it. Let's hold
And that's
it
the
into.
noise.
Come on now. You know what I mean? Yes, that's the noise. So we have to understand that even when it's, and I said this last time, me and Ferdinand, now we're cooking energies high. You might think, oh, this is good. This is good. But it is and it ain't, right? Because we're attracting, you think the negative don't see this high energy? Like, yo, we need to go see what that's like. You know what I'm saying? You don't think the devil so-called comes in a form of light? And guess what? I'm in this cool optimistic state, right? And I might come across the figure because I just got off the call with Ferdinand, so everything's good. And then I'm not operating under the proper filter because I removed myself from the spirit of neutralization. Now I polarize myself. Just understand, once you polarize stuff, good or bad, you are now being susceptible to it, the laws of all types of attraction. Cook in, my brother.
And I want everybody out there to understand that when my brother over here is talking about polarizing yourself, understand that to achieve polarization, you more than likely are in a state of creating something. All right. That's a big piece. Okay. There's a lot of people out there who might be like, yeah, I'm a polarized myself. I'm gonna be a polarized master. Well, you got to be creating things, right? Because that puts you in that position of saying, all right, I'm on my square right now, and I'm going in this direction. This is what I'm doing, right? Because once you create, you got to commit to something. If you're creating, this is where the polarized ability is. Okay. Now understand this as well with AutoSuggestion. It goes back to that again, what we're telling ourselves, what we're communicating to ourselves on being able to achieve this polarized state, right? And to also achieve the knowing of thyself. Keep in mind that some of what my brother was talking about, the prerequisite to a lot of that for those who want to do it purposefully is knowing thyself. That's a big, big piece. That's really, really important for everybody out there to understand, is the knowing thyself part is supposed to precede everything that you're doing. Because if you truly know thyself, now what happens is you're a walking embodiment of the truth. And as you walk into a space, you pick up a book, you look at anything, you can discern real truth like that. Right. Well, in the Moorish Science Temple, one of the things that's talked about in the doctrine from Noble Drew Ali is that there'll be Moors that'll come into the temple knowing. Right. All this is a bunch of people who have walked the path of purity. And they're going to be unrecognizable to the people who haven't walked it. They're going to think that those people are talking nonsense. What do you mean you already know the truth? You don't know nothing. What are you talking about? All the doors flew open for me. It says it right in the Kabbalion. It says it right in all these other doctrines as well.
And the reason why, because you are, and we talked about this before, you are an absolute and you are subjective. This is why Christ in the Quran said this is why human beings are so dope. We're a strange mixture, different from any other entities that's on different realms. You know what I mean? Certain entities on so-called higher realms, they don't have the ability to mix in grosser elements. So they they may do so-called judging or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You know what I'm saying? Because they're so-called highly, so certain things are beneath them. But this is where you win. This is where you win, because you have the power of God to be above it, below it, beneath it, and you know that all of it is a necessary energy that you can use. You've eaten from the tree of knowledge. It just so happens the tree of knowledge is the light, to know the light in the dark and to use them indiscriminately. This is when you become not even the black magician or the white, you're just the magician. You know what I mean? Yeah, you're using, as the Kabbalion said, laws against laws, whether it's low, high, low. So this is why repetition, and we're going to keep on saying it, I'm getting man to understand your divinity. And I'm telling you that your flaw, the so-called ability to produce the negative, the yang to the yin, is not a flaw. It's the divinity. You know what I'm saying? It's the very thing that makes the polarization of extremes. It couldn't even be no extremes. There couldn't even be no meeting if one thing wasn't one. So this is why to know thyself, this is so important, because we're telling you that you are 7 principles. You are 7, and we can't find no principles outside of these principles. This is why we're standing on this business. You are 7 principles, 7 organized principles made flesh. This is the know thyself. This is the know that and this is, it's the paradox, because you're trying to understand yourself with the senses. The senses is the world of man. Even though man is the thing, when you see man, you see the thing that sent him. But since you're only working with the grosser elements, which is rationality, once again, man has the Y principle, XY chromosome. The Y is the Y itself. We have the reason, we have the logic. But when you're only messing with these modalities, you're not in the spirit of truth. So you don't know thyself. You know half a self. You're a demigod or a half god. You know, it's when you understand the whole of yourself. This is how you can walk around. And no one outside of you, once you know yourself, can say, hey man, you're not the truth, because you know you're your truth. And if I'm my subjective truth, according to Pope Paradox, I also must be the absolute truth at the same time. It's a strange mixture. You know what I mean? So if a man has chosen his laws, and as my boy Chip said, he took the laws and he didn't go off another man's book, which is a stone tablet, which means that it was written outside of him. And he decided to know thyself and go into the laws of his own heart and confess it with his mouth. You cannot tell that man he don't know God. If you're telling that man he don't know God, that means you don't know God. Because where are you trying to put God? You hear the man speaking, he's telling you who he is, and then you're trying to convince him that God is not that, he's something else. You don't know. When you're trying to talk someone else, whether to me, righteous or not righteous, and you're trying to say that's not divinity, that's letting me know where you are on the scale of student, adept, alchemist, because the true nature of God, shout out to Chip, is I am that I am. And that's his name forever and ever and ever. But we have the ability to have free will. And ironically, like the Kabbalion said, when we can label something that I am that is us exercising free will, because you cannot even have a will. If you can't separate, you're willing what? You can't even will anything. You know what I mean? So paradoxically, our ability to put a label on something that is different from self is what allows us to exercise free wills and allows us to exercise the laws of polarity, because God wouldn't be God if it could not move within the all. You know what I'm saying? The all saying that it's the all just for saying that's the all without then, well, what does the all consist of? And the all doesn't know. That wouldn't be the fulfillment of, you know what I mean?
You know, I got to jump in here. And again, I want to thank everybody who's tuned in to Two Brothers and an Idea, episode 26, AutoSuggestion. I really want to thank y'all, and I want y'all to understand something. Y'all are witnessing history right now, okay? There's not many conversations like this that have ever happened, period.
Facts.
Okay. And there's very few of this level conversation that's happening right now. There's very few people who are on this and being able to take this knowledge and turn it into practical use and just give it away. Right. We got our cash apps up here. If you want to support, if you want to throw something, hey, we appreciate it. Right. But we're not pastors. We're not sheiks. We're not in here taking an offering. We're not getting building fund money or none of that, right? What we're in here doing is giving y'all high science reality based on whatever plane of existence that we're talking about, because we're giving you reality on the physical plane. We're giving you reality on the mental plane. We're giving you reality on the spiritual plane. And then we're taking all three of them and we're turning them into this. Understand that there are very few places where you're going to be able to get this level of knowledge, and you can go back and verify it, or you don't even have to. We'll put the books up on the screen. No problem. We'll read them for you. Okay. Like there's very few places you're going to find this, right? But before I get off on a tangent, let's actually get back into this book, right?
Yeah, because this chapter is still not done. The chapter is still amazing. Still got more sauce in the chapter.
I think I stopped at until you succeed. Your ability to use the principle of autosuggestion will depend very largely upon your capacity to concentrate upon a given desire until that desire becomes a burning obsession. When you begin to carry out the instructions in connection with the 6 steps described in the 2nd chapter, it will be necessary for you to make use of the principle of concentration. Let us here offer suggestions for the effective use of concentration. When you begin to carry out the first of the 6 steps, which instructs you to fix in your own mind the exact amount of money you desire, hold your thoughts on that amount of money by concentration or fixation of attention with your eyes closed until you can actually see the physical appearance of the money. Do this at least once each day. As you go through these exercises, follow the instructions given in the chapter on faith and see yourself actually in possession of the money.
Oh, listen, we can, and the beautiful part about this is from Think and Grow Rich, but money, as Ferdinand said, can be replaced with anything. And it's so beautiful because you guys see, we just read, you would think that the Hermetic Principle in this book was written by the same author, because he's talking about the polarization. He's talking about the pendulum swing. He's talking about, based off what we discovered about polarization and concentration are the same words. You know what I mean? You're trying to separate purity, certain elements, and you're trying to just maintain a certain element, right? And then we also understand that he's telling you to close your eyes, because the word of the senses, when you see things and you interpret things, it's automatically trying to interpret, what is this? When you're talking about manifestation, you cannot think underneath something. You have to know what it is. You can't say, well, I think this, I believe it's if I said belief is cool, because it's grasping at the straws. Typically, when I feel like it's being used around me, it's like, I believe it's, you don't say, well, I know it's water, and you're still doing this. You can say, I believe it's water, and still do this. You know what I mean? But this is why the state of knowing, which I belief is the fertilizer to knowing. You know what I mean? But when it's telling you to close your eyes.
Let me chime in just for a second. I would say, I love what you just said, but I would say that the fertilizer to knowing, it's actually fertilizer to belief, and then it produces knowing, and that would be the emotion.
There we go. Shout out to my brother. And then it's another important part that, once again, I don't think when they put words, I look at this like it's battle rap. You can't wait for the punchline. Every verse is a punchline, and it's just we just got to discover it. You know what I mean?
Bar after bar.
It's telling you to close your eyes, and it's capitalizing. Actually see physicality. It tells you to close your eyes, then look at physical. You know what I mean? Because it's trying to get you to understand is that when we're trying to, even when you visualize, when you're using senses, your senses are still so low key trying to understand, but you can't try to understand what's already been understood. You know what I mean? So this is why the senses are usually the last to see the creation of God. You know what I mean? And then it doesn't know where it came from. So this is why going to your true God, true reality, true source, which is original substance. Original substance is the mind. So we're going into This is why we just said taking time out the day to go into original substance. Get out of the hall of mirrors. Get out of the Maya. Get out of the illusion. Get out of the word of senses, which you're trying to make sense. Well, what's that? And what's this? Oh, is that that? Oh, that is that. The word of labels. Let's not be a label whore. And let's go into the true word where we can actually see. You see, it's capitalized. We can actually see the true appearance of what's going on. You know what I'm saying? And we can align ourselves when we close our eyes, right? And when we're going to places, and it's typically, and you correct me if I'm wrong, closing of the eyes is so beautiful. Usually when we close our eyes, we don't visualize what is. Our mind automatically takes us to a different place. Some of us can do it with our eyes open, which is called daydreaming. But even when you're daydreaming, somehow you're in a world of this place and your mind and your eyes is somewhere beyond. It's in a paradox. It's in another private location. It's in my father's house or many mansions. I will go and prepare a place for you. It's doing this entanglement that cannot be done. This even for me too. I told Ace this the other day is that I do a great job at meditating at night and meditating in the morning. But what I have not been doing a good job is when I'm in an awakened state, purposely with proper intent, not just, oh, I'm going to do it before I go to sleep, or I'm going to do it before I start my day. No. I'm going to go and set apart a period of time. Once again, and Ferdinand, you know the scripture, anyone else who knows the scripture, and I'm going to go in my own closet. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to repeat repetitions like the heathens do. I'm not going to lay my carpet out in public and start doing this as the Christ, told us that we shouldn't be doing that because it's ego. When you want to go talk to God, it's in a communing of your own self in which you have prayed to your Father in secret. He shall, you know what I'm trying to say, give to you in front of everyone's eyes view. Go ahead, my brother.
When I'm trying to help someone reveal God to themselves, a lot of the times it's because they'd like to heal from a disease that just about every doctor that they've come in contact with has no clue how to help them get rid of. So they need God to come in and intervene. So where do we go? We go to the forest. We go hang out under them trees. We walk barefoot around that forest with all the spiders and the bugs and all them walking around too. And we ingest and embed ourselves within the circle of life. We embed ourselves in a environment that is surrounded by the golden ratio. It's one big spiritual vortex that's happening in that space. And in that space, we lose the suggestions of Chick-fil-A and Cinnamon Toast Crunch and bacon, eggs, and biscuits. We lose the suggestions of Dr. Pepper and Smirnoff and 151. We lose the suggestions of the bar and the club and the really cool Gucci belt and the really nice Cybertruck and that Maybach we saw and blah, blah, blah's Bentley. We lose all of that. We lose the suggestions of the big booty janks. We lose the suggestions of the really fine light skin thing or the really sexy dark skin thing. We lose all of those suggestions, and now you're just out there with nature. Now you're out there with the real. So this puts a person in a position for God, source, Allah, whatever they want to call them. It gives that individual the ability for that source and that individual to become one. Because now they have embedded themselves within the real and taken away all of the fake. And now what happens is this person is finally able, for one of the first times in their life, to communicate directly with God. Right? For whatever reason, they were having trouble doing it in the temple. For whatever reason, they were having trouble doing it in the church. For whatever reason, they were having trouble doing it in their own house. But taking them out to that forest or in the middle of a desert or high up in the mountains, no matter which one you want to go to with me, I can help you talk to God. I can help you hear what God has to say to you, because that holistic pathway of ridding yourself of a disease, healing yourself from that disease, and spiritual ascension are one in the same.
Chef. And here's another thing too, man, that kind of when you was talking, when we talk about seek ye first, right? And it talked about seek ye first the kingdom. You know what I'm saying? they were trying to ask Jesus about, well, they said that, you know, that you will rebuild the temple. Remember, they were trying to question his messiahness, and he already
Right.
told them, you are the temple. Then they told us the temple. You know what I'm saying? The kingdom, the temple, right? But once
Right.
again, when you go there with the science again, the rich is telling us, or the AutoSuggestion is telling us that when you go to the kingdom, right, the true self, you can't go there expecting that the emperor will have clothes on. You are the clothes. You know, because you might go and investigate the throne, and you see the throne is, like you said, Chick-fil-A, you know, gossip, blah 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 blah, and that's on the throne. This is why the reality is going that the way that it is. So we have to understand whatever that we're going to be met with is probably not going to be the purity that we desire when we do sit with this God. This is why we are the conscious, the living God. You know what I'm saying? So we have to then take the words, and we have to understand what we've been saying. Hold on, I hit the wrong button. We have to understand what we've been saying about the word. And when we go inside of this kingdom, we have to come with shit prepared. We have to come with stuff, you know, just how when you buy some land, you know what I'm saying? You don't go to the land, expect the house to be there. You come in with wood, you come in with lumber, you come in with seeds, you come in with, and this is what we're doing here. We are at the same time, because mind you, when we teach, we are also becoming students too, as well, because we feel the words vibrating through the vessel, and the words are further submersing in us. You know what I mean? But what we're giving you is the building blocks. AutoSuggestion in the beginning was the word, and the word was with God, and the word was God, right? That was the Genesis. And then when we get towards the revelation, we see that the word, after they created the world, then thus revealed himself as flesh. You know what I'm saying? Then the word became, Cook, go ahead, Isa. Then the word became flesh. You know what I mean? So we just have to understand, when we're talking about AutoSuggestion, we're talking about the living God. You know what I mean? We're showing you how to use the living God, and we're showing you that when you do some investigation, you might see a false God. You might see a God that was acquired through senses. You know what I'm saying? And not through a God. You might see a God that was acquired through works. You know what I mean? And not through the God of grace. Go ahead, my brother.
You know, when we have these kind of topics, you know, and I was touching a little earlier on the carbon based cybernetic machine that we all have, that our controller is using. When we give these conversations to the people, when we give this knowledge out, understand that we're talking about applied high sciences. So we're consistently talking about a synergistic way of movement. There's many people out here who are teaching this science from a one piece of the pie point of view. Well, what they've done is they've given you an illusion that you can't really understand. It might raise your emotions. You might feel like, oh, I got fed on Sunday, right? But did you really get what you needed? The majority of the time, I would say that the answer is no, because you're not getting the practical knowledge. I'll give you a great example. Matter of fact, I'm going to pull the book up as well. I wrote a book called The Moorish American Guide to Whole Health, 7 Keys to Purity. And I wrote about suggestion in that book. Well, this book shows a person how to take the teachings of the Moorish Science Temple of America and make them practical. Because there's many people who will be like, oh, it's already practical in the Koran. Well, if it's already practical, then why ain't they doing it? Right? Well, the reason why is because it's not practical for today, for most of the understanding of where the people are. Now, if you got some high level scholars, for them, yeah, it's practical information. They're high level scholars. But if you got people who don't do a whole lot of reading, a whole lot of studying, then it might be some super high science for them, even though the words of the Holy Koran are basics. That's the basics. But that might be
I got
really
one thing to add. I'm gonna let you cook. And not only is it, you have to understand, we're giving you the science that's being interpreted, because we're all messengers through God in 2025. It's the age. So some of these books were written to the limit that the age would even allow them to confess the truth. You know what I mean? So this is why when my brother is writing books like this in 2023, 2024, they're necessary, because we're in a different age than the men who came before us. And mind you, I don't care how great of a man that they were only limited to the amount that the stars, you know what I mean? Because it's all in relation. So remember, even in the New Testament, Jesus kept saying, it's not my time. It's not my time yet. He had to, is a certain time period that the whole process had to unfold, even from him dying, so-called dying on the cross. You know what I mean? So I just wanted to add that. And the reason why it is good to go and see our elders and what they build on, but do not disrespect the current day prophets and the people. Once again, it's not that we're better. Everyone has a role. In order for us to be prophets, we got to have people who willing to get on YouTube and rock with us, unless we wouldn't be a prophet. So everyone has a role in understanding. And what we're not doing, like some of these other people doing, we're not trying to put God somewhere far out. We're literally showing you. To me, the person who is mediating God is the person who is understanding what the word is. And then he is, by his fruits, showing me his command over his knowledge of God. You know what I mean? And this is why we're bringing it down to a level of practicality, because when we're talking about auto-suggestion, you don't understand. We're exposing God to you. We're showing you the real true God, which is not just the word, but the words made into action, and then the journey that the words take to be decoded, to be turned into flesh. That's the entirety of the story. You know what I mean? And for those of us who can really understand this and understand this and know that the knowing of stuff that you will always know is just a amalgamation, accumulation of the words that you have until then. But guess what? Next year, 2 years, 3 years, you're going to know a new you, because the words are always evolving and always changing. But go ahead, my brother.
Or appreciate you, brother. Like that. That's some powerful information you just gave right there. Super profound, and I hope everybody out there is listening. Listen, hey, if Raw is in here cooking, please put something in the comments. Please put some cooking emojis in there.
If
Please
we
write some
cooking.
cooking. Please put something in the comments, because your boy is cooking right now. But let's jump over here to the Moorish American Guide to Whole Health. I don't often read this book to people, but today I want to give y'all something, because I wrote about suggestion in here. So I'm gonna go ahead and read the introduction. Whole health is the way. What's taught in many institutions is to become or stay healthy. The Grand Sheiks of the Moorish Science Temple of America teach purity through Noble Drew Ali's instructions. Purity produces what is whole. Know thyself and Allah. Achieving the knowing of oneself requires wholeness. The only way to achieve wholeness is in a state of purity. How do we get from here to there? It's about our thoughts. Remember, thought is the cause of it all. But it's also about autosuggestion and heterosuggestion. And it's about entertainment ingestion. We can even throw in family and friend affections. Symbols and emotions take the spirit and mind in all types of directions. Purifying the suggestions becomes an embodiment of the closest thing to perfection. Your spiritual energy has a certain duality with your mental energy. And even our spirits are influenced constantly by suggestion. But the spirits we choose to be in repetition, influence the suggestions we accept into our mental reality. That mental reality becoming emotionalized creates instructions for the subconscious mind to build the physical equivalent on your screen of space. This is the law. How do we achieve that manifestation of purity on the plane of things made manifest? Apply the 7 keys of purity to thine walk. Align nutritional intake with righteousness, drinking water, receiving sunlight to bare skin, purposeful movement, peaceful rest, goal manifestation, and applying Islamism. The combination of these 7 keys in balance produces purity, and the whole unfolds like a beautiful rose, a floribundus, or a rosarium. So, yes, we must create balance in the higher versus the lower to manifest obedience to law. This is how we get through those stages of belief, faith, and fruition near effortlessly. The greatness of our ancestry we innately are today. And we activate it through living love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice to self first. At every level of spirit, mind, and body, to include those of conscious, subconscious, and superconscious. Sacrifice, humility, accountability, responsibility, and maturity are all part and partial in this soup's recipe of whole health. This guide will activate balance within dualities, produce peace and harmony, and uplift fallen humanity. Everlasting life more abundantly is the birthright. Activate it, manifest it, wield it. Generational wealth is dependent upon it. This book will serve every Moor, man and woman, young and seasoned, the haves and have nots, new initiates to supreme grand sheiks, all Muslims who have breath, even those currently in the womb, from this day forward as the practical guide and baseline standard to achieving heaven on earth. The holy breath flowing through every atom and cell of my being will reveal the way to everlasting life more abundantly in this book. Every letter, punctuation and space between them is filled with love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. All
Mm,
7 chapters applied together in unison is the way to Elohim. As the ancient Mississippi bloodline runs warm in my veins, this book will bless Moors and Asiatics throughout the globe, disseminating divinely prepared knowledge, inspiring the use of their own innate abilities to heal, prosper, and grow. As the image and likeness of Thoth burns bright in my mind every day, the wisdom of the
mm.
ancient science is revealed here and forevermore. As we enter the matriarchal period of a great year, of a new great year, this knowledge of applied absolute truth will lead Moors and Asiatics into the Aquarian age with whole health, mountain moving power, astronomical generational wealth, exponential levels of influence, and every extraordinary ability of the ancients.
Man, that's powerful, bro. And really, what he's describing, right, is to me the natural state of the natural man in the new age. You know what I mean? So all of this is not available, is going to be available for all, because we're all in different ages. We're all in different points of the zodiac. You know what I mean? So what we're giving you, when we, to me, when I say God, when I say Jesus Christ, that is the person that's in the state of revelation. How do you know that the person in the state of revelation? Because he's in the state of bearing witness to his own God within himself by now taking conscious control and believing in the mirroring of Christ's teachings, when he told us that now we can let go of what we see and we can have faith. And faith is conviction in the unseen, because the unseen is the true original substance. So when we denoise ourselves, that happens throughout the ages. And even when Ferdinand is talking about, he's talking about, eating properly, getting sunlight. These are things that you don't have to tell the animals, because the animals weren't imbued with the level of free will that we have, which then thrusts us in between the ages, and it also thrusts us between the tree of knowing of good and evil. You know what I mean? So what we're talking about is, as we move into this Aquarian age, you're going to see certain people living in a certain way. And I won't even call this, oh, they changed, they're evolving. What happened, that they're moving towards a more natural state, and man is going back from a unnatural curse that he's been under for a particular time, and now he's going more towards what his, if the noise was deduced and the noise was taken away, he will naturally allow the golden ratio, because the golden ratio, as we see, is unfolding on earth. You know what I mean? And it unfolds in a natural way, and we go through periods and times where you can never stop the golden ratio, because it's absolute truth. And we know truth is original substance. We know golden ratio is original substance. But what we can do is slow it down through playing defense on ourselves when we're in these states that the cycles put us through of ignorance, to where now the golden ratio is being concentrated in only a little form of abundance. And the golden ratio is so pure, it'll give you abundance of fear. It'll give you abundance of hunger. Because it's unconditional. It's unconditional. And it really is responding to the user. So even when you see things unfolding in a more demonic or destruction way, that's the golden ratio. Beautiful path. It'll keep on going until we decide it's enough. There's not going to be a spook man that say, "Ah, that's it, enough." And if it is a spook man, he hid himself in the cycles cycles of men. You know what I mean? If there is, and we're just so happened, like I said, God bless whatever that we decided to come back here during this time. We just so happen to be in the age where man can now not look to the work of his hands, but he can look to the hands of his Father, the Heavenly Father, the one that exists outside of the word of senses. And he's a paradox. He doesn't need a rhyme or reason or even a season. He can have intercessions. He can, for most people, they're going through sun, moon. When you're in your cycle, you can say, you know what, it's all sun today, or it's all moon, not because the sun doesn't exist or the moon doesn't exist, but you're using law against law. You're using neutralization. You're using polarization. And you might have been using it for ages. You're just skipping through. And it doesn't mean that the truth isn't true, but it also means, right, the paradox. When they always say, shout out Ferdinand, and let me see your face with it, because this hit me the other day. When they talk about the Metatron's cube and we're in the cube and Satan's cube, and then they'll tell us at the same time, right? Your parents will tell you, your teachers will tell you, when you're stuck on a problem that the same mind can't get you in, they'll tell you to go to the paradox. What is the paradox? Go to the unseen location that is private. But then they don't tell us like that. That's the esoteric way. They'll just say, think outside the box. Well, what box are we talking about? And why is it such a common thing to tell us to think outside the box? Because why? That's the power of God. That's the power.
Let me touch
Christ.
that.
Go ahead, brother.
Let me have that. All right. So I love that. People often say, let me think outside of the box. Well, let's think about what a box is.
Mm,
A box is 360 degrees,
mm,
490-degree angles. Okay.
mm,
Well, what is a circle? 360 degrees. A
mm,
square and a circle are pretty much the exact same thing, even though they look a little different. Now, why would those be important? 360 degrees. Well, that's kind of how our cycles work in our life,
mm,
in our existence. Our cycles work in these 360-degree patterns.
mm,
Each of the 360-degree patterns might be moving at different speeds. They might be much larger of 360 degrees than others, but
mm,
they're still 360 degrees. They're circles, they're cycles. And this understanding, when we have it, now what happens is you can start to understand it in other parts of your life, right? Because every part of your life has this, right? And you were just talking about the golden ratio. One of the reasons why being around the golden ratio, ingesting the golden ratio as its own type of auto suggestion or suggestion period, the reason why it works so well for us is because that's how you create yourself in your mother's womb.
mm,
You may or may not have known that. You may have thought that your mother created you. That didn't happen. You created you. Your mother just happened to be the science lab
mm,
that you was the science professor and the student in.
mm,
And you use the golden ratio to make you. This
mm,
is part of the reason why your wingspan is relative to your height.
mm. Nah, cook enough sauce, my brother. I guess let's finish reading, man. We still got a little bit more to go.
I got you. I'm jumping in right now. Let me put it back on the screen. All right. Oh no, not
Hey,
wrong.
still wise words.
Yeah, I
Wise
ain't
words with wise words.
I ain't gonna go too deep in that. And if they want that one, they have to go in the mastermind library, check it out. But let's go back to Think and Grow Rich. All right, so here is a most significant fact. The subconscious mind takes any orders given it in a spirit of absolute faith and acts upon those orders, although the orders often have to be presented over and over again through repetition before they are interpreted by the subconscious mind. Following the preceding statement, consider the possibility of playing a perfectly legitimate trick on your subconscious mind by making it believe, because you believe it, that you must have the amount of money you are visualizing, that this money is already awaiting your claim, that the subconscious mind must hand over to you practical plans for acquiring the money, which is yours. Now, before I continue reading, I want to touch this just for a second. And I want everybody out there to understand the importance of limiting the suggestions, period, limiting even the auto suggestions, because you don't want to create an extra amount of noise. What it says right here is the subconscious mind is going to take any orders given to it in a spirit of absolute faith. Well, if you got too much noise, it's going to make it very difficult for you to achieve this faith thing that they're talking about. You know, it says in the Bible in Hebrews 11:1, faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. Well,
Mm,
if we understand that for what it is at the symbolic spiritual level, well, we understand exactly what we need to do here. We need to
mm,
make sure that we keep in a clear mind. And that
mm,
puts our subconscious in a space where we're now that we have used our will to control what the suggestions are that's coming in, and we have chosen certain specific goals the way we desire them to play out. Now they will play out exactly that way because we have controlled the sacred geometrical algorithm. And
mm,
faith becomes a very big part of that. So I'm going to continue real quick and get through these two paragraphs, and I'm going to give it to my brother. Hand over the thought suggested in the preceding paragraph to your imagination and see what your imagination can or will do to create practical plans for the accumulation of money through transmutation of your desire. Do not wait for a definite plan through which you intend to exchange services or merchandise in return for the money you are visualizing, but begin at once to see yourself in possession of the money, demanding and expecting, meanwhile, that your subconscious mind will hand over the plan or plans you need. Be on the alert for these plans, and when they appear, put them into action immediately. When the plans appear, They will probably flash into your mind through the sixth sense in the form of an inspiration. This inspiration may be considered a direct telegram or message from infinite intelligence. Treat it with respect and act upon it soon as you receive it. Failure to do so will be fatal to your success.
Listen, man, like I said, man, I'm just in, I feel like, man, what more can we say? Of course, once again, we know repetition is mother of all skill. Us, iterating on it over and over, it's helped us, it helps the audience. But man, it's so, and even when it talks about when the plans are clear, they will probably flash. So this is where we have to understand, and our imagination is not just our imagination. To say that it's only imagination, say, well, that's only God, that's only reality, that's only truth, that's only original substance. You know what I'm saying? We've been looking for the primordial dark matter, the thing that's the causality of it. We don't understand that it's our imaginations. You know, we don't. Why? Because when we're in use of imagination, it's automatically deducing that we are thinking outside the box. When you're thinking outside the box, you're utilizing the power of all that is all the secret. Even if you're imagining horrific things. You know what I mean? Even if you see something good happen to you in the box, then your mind automatically self-sabotages and push you into a location where the thing is bad, or you know what I mean. So we have to understand is that everything that is given to us is given first from our Father, who is our Father. It's truth. It's truth. What is truth? It's original substance. What is original substance? It is the thing that thinks outside the box. You know what I mean? It's the thing that has faith. What is faith? It's the thing that has hope for things that are not yet seen. You know what I mean? So anytime when you are utilizing, it's the same thing as, believe as though you have and you will. You know what I mean? So when we're operating in the spirit of Jesus and the spirit of God, that means that we are looking at a certain condition of the senses. We are using our true original substance, which is the ability to look beyond the situation, beyond the four corners of the room, beyond the 3D reality that's collapsed. And then now we're mediating ourselves, hopefully consciously, because some of us do it unconsciously because we can't help it. We're God. So you look at a situation, you look at your power outside of the box to bring a more saboteur relationship to you, which is mediating itself with God. What we're trying to show you guys is how to be in a state of revelation, because even when you're in an ignorant state, the Bible still shows us you're still God. You know, the truth of the golden ratio is still evident. The unconditional love is still there. This is why it won't pull you away from self, because you have become the self, the auto-suggestion, the self, the suggester, the one that flips on his own mind, the one that makes things in his likeness from no other original substance but the substance that he already has. You know what I mean? Father, give us this day our daily bread, as we forgive our trespasses. So you are the simulacrum. You are the thing that doesn't need any new savior, because the savior has already become. You need to be in a state of revelation. You need to know thyself so that you can understand who you are. You can understand the truth. And you understand anyone who knows the truth, he is always mediating his outside boxes to conform into the inner box in his likeness. Stop me if I'm not cooking. You know what I mean? So this is why this episode is so important. This is why Ferdinand was so excited, and I was so excited, because now we're not just dealing with abstract ideas. Even in abstractness, we're showing you that somehow the word is God, right? And your words is God. And this imaginary, you are the self. The self that you think exists does not exist. It only exists as laws. We understand that the laws were put outside of us. Shout out to our brother Chip. I don't know if he's still on here. He showed us the scripture. Then the laws were taken from outside of us, and it was placed within us. You know what I mean? So once again, written not with ink, but the spirit of living God, not on tablets, on stones, but on your hearts. This came after the original law. And once God seen, remember, he said in Genesis, he said, I hate these niggas. I hate them. He wanted to play, he couldn't. But this is his understanding and overstanding, and where the grace came, because he understood, you know what I mean, to a certain degree, that I have made them fall short. So I have to redeem them. You know what I mean? And this is what we're talking about. Your redemption is realizing that you was made short of yourself, because you allow shame and all these external conditions to show you where God was, which is everything outside of yourself. You ignored the teachings of Christ, which Christ then told you, don't look here, don't look there. In fact, if anyone else is telling you, look there, don't believe them. He gave us the power back and fulfilled the fulfillment of the I am, because once again, even when God told Moses, I am that I am, he still thought it was other than self. So Christ had to come back.
I gotta jump in.
Go ahead.
You know, for the last 7 years, I've been teaching this information. Everything that we're talking about, I've been teaching it. And I've said it multiple times. I think I even said it on this podcast. A person could go to my Facebook page and they could pull my archive, and they would see probably APA and MLA level write-ups of suggestion, of everlasting life more abundantly, of how to catch the Holy Ghost, of how to get rid of any type of disease. And the list goes on of all these topics. And I gave away all of the information, right? It corresponds with what Dr. Sabi's talked about. It corresponds directly with what Noble Drew Ali put out. It corresponds directly with what Elijah Muhammad has put out. It's corresponded with what Jesus has put out. It's corresponded with what Tahuti has put out. And the list goes on, right? This is while I was doing this with no guide, right? I was doing this with no teacher. This happened as a result of purity. Okay.
Mm.
I gave up everything. And there's a few people, who are still on the call. So I'm gonna give y'all what happened. I'm gonna say it over and over again because I want somebody out there that wants this to know how to do it.
Mm.
It tells you exactly how to do it in the Bible and all these different religious texts. It tells you exactly how. It says to repent. Okay, so you got to look at a lot of different dictionaries to understand
Mm.
that word. Don't just look at the new Webster that might have came out 3 years ago. It's probably going to tell you to be sorrowful. Well, that's
Mm.
the important part. You need to be sorrowful, but you also need to turn away from your ways. There's some things that you're doing in your lifestyle that you got to let go of. If you want to
Mm.
go up the spiritual path, you got to change those auto suggestions that you're allowing to come in, right? So I did that. I gave up everything. I stopped listening to music. I stopped watching stuff on television. I minimized my phone usage to pretty much business and
Mm.
communication with my wife and family members. I
Mm.
limited that communication as much as I could to only the communication that was actually serving. I let go of the foods that weren't serving. Could you imagine like having a spouse and not going on dates for months because that person's like, nope, food's poisoned. We're not going there. Nope, this place plays the lyrics and the music. No, not gonna work for my spirit. This store over here, no, I don't appreciate what they're serving the people right here. We're not even going in that store. That store is witchcraft. And I'm not saying that anybody's got to do it to the level of what I did, but what I
Mm.
am saying is there is a certain level of giving up that has to happen to have all of those doors fly open. This information that we're talking about is mirrored in the Kabbalion. It's
Mm.
mirrored in all of these religious texts. But for a person to be able to hear and see Ra and I, they
Mm.
would have to not be in a position of paying that spiritual price
Mm.
in the Quran, Quran, not the Circle Seven Koran, but in the Quran of Mecca, it says in chapter 2, verse 8. Anybody can go and verify this if you want to. It says that there's a spiritual price for those who haven't been living righteous, and that
Mm.
price is that you can't see and you can't hear. So now
Mm.
you won't recognize what's in front of you. You'll
Mm.
think that what's in front of you is Pookie, not really realizing what has manifested in front of your face. And it was sent to you to give you saving power. But sometimes you got to be quiet
Mm.
so that you can know. I'll give you a great example and I'm going to land my plane. I'm going to give you a real good one. And I've told you this before, Ra, and I've told all the listeners before. I used to manage a homeless shelter in Williamsburg, Virginia. It's an emergency homeless shelter. While I was there, I was talking about an expedition I was planning to the Mississippi Valley to go see the mounds and shoot a docu series on the mounds. Well, while I'm speaking that in the AM when I woke everybody up, one of the guests overheard me and he said, "Tamare."
Mm.
I had heard that before, but I didn't. I wasn't too sure on that word, but I had heard it before in conversation with some high level scholars I was talking to. So I'm like, so I digged in on it, like, hey man, give me some more, you know. And then he's telling me certain stuff. And I'm like, oh, okay. Now I'm starting to piece it together. And this brother, he claimed, I haven't been able to verify this, but he claimed to be a blood son of Dr. Malachi Z. York.
Mm.
He called himself a tomb. Well, this brother, the information that he was giving me, like I'm telling you right now, ain't too many sheiks that I've ever met. that's on his level. And he was doing that while he was drunk. He's a serial alcoholic. I mean, real bad with the alcohol. No, not trying to speak negative about him, but that just says something to me about somebody who could be completely drunk. You just drank a whole fifth, and you can give an adept lesson that's on a higher level than most of the sheiks in the Moorish Science Temple of America. These sheiks in the Moorish Science Temple of America, I want to be very clear. These are some very, very intelligent brothers and sisters. These are some very well learned, high research ability individuals. And this brother was sitting on the side of the street, about to lay down and go to sleep in front of somebody's store, and he was giving me adept level lessons. Well, why is that important? Everybody listen. Because your teachers often are not going to look like how you think they should. But you got to be ready. The only way to be ready is purity. Give up some things, sacrifice, be humble. You got to be mature, accountable, responsible. But you got to do those things at the spiritual level so they can go down into mind. And then mind can emotionalize them and they can create something on the physical reality. Maybe what they create on the physical reality is your ability for patience. Maybe what they create on the physical reality is your ability to listen, to understand. Maybe what it creates on the physical reality is your ability to control your body language. So now 80% of your communication that's coming out to people is very, very respectful. So now they just want to keep giving to you. It seems like you're appreciative. It seems like you're in gratitude on a regular basis because that's what they are interpreting from your behavior. But this happens as a result of you walking the path of purity. In the temple, it's said in the Quran that purity is something that men don't comprehend. And I would agree. The majority of men don't comprehend it. However, when we're sent a messenger to give the message, it's time for the sheiks to listen. Now it's up to them. They can do whatever they want to do. But if they don't get the message direct from the messenger, chances are they're going to communicate a fugazi message, or what they're going to do is they're not going to communicate that message at all because they don't feel comfortable enough to step into that space and relay the truth. So this is why individuals like myself, and I'm going to toot my horn right now, individuals like me are needed to speak in these spaces. If Dr. Sabi was alive, we would need him to come and speak in these spaces. If Noble Drew Ali was still alive, we need him to come speak in these spaces because these are the experts on health. And health and spiritual ascension go hand in hand. And one of the biggest parts of all of that, I'm going to land my plane with this, is auto-suggestion. You got to know everything about that if you're going to help someone rise spiritually and help them heal.
Nah, man, good stuff, man. I don't even have any more add-ons to that, man. I think that it's important. Just looking at the last bit that we got to go through. Actually, we definitely got to get because it's really important to wrap up the rest of the article.
All right, well, word. I'm gonna go ahead and start. Read the rest of the chapter then. Let me pull it up on the screen for everybody. All right, so let's see. In the fourth of the 6 steps, you are instructed to create a definite plan for carrying out your desire and begin at once to put this plan into action. You should follow the instructions in the manner described. Hold on a second. In the manner described in the preceding paragraph. Do not trust to your reason when creating your plan for accumulating money through the transmutation of desire. Your reason is faulty. Moreover, your reasoning faculty may be lazy, and if you depend entirely upon it to serve you, it may disappoint you.
Let me just stop you right there. I'm sorry. You know what I'm saying? And we keep talking about the man is the reason. He's trying to reason. He's trying to understand. So this is going back to the Holy Scripture when it's telling you to lean not on your own understanding because your father's ways, the imaginational mind is past the box. When we're even using words and when we're using our senses, we're operating within the box. The unseen word, the word that we're talking about, it doesn't have any boxes. That's basically what it's telling you is that, do not go off reasoning and rationality. Do not go, well, this plan shouldn't equal that. Just come up with the best plan or idea that you can. And then now allow the Heavenly Father, your imaginational mind, your ability to think outside the box. And I think that this is what the chapter is going to, get into. I just wanted to touch on that though.
I appreciate you going in on that, and I'm going to touch that for a second. So when we think about creating, what is one of the best ways to do it? A four-step process:
Mm,
goal, brainstorm, plan, implement. I've been teaching this for a very, very long time, and this is how I help people to heal from disease that Western medicine doesn't believe there's a cure to, right? So what do? We create a goal. Well, first thing that we do is we use auto-suggestion, right? So we write that goal out as if it is already achieved. Maybe what that person wants to do is have healing from diabetes, right? Well, if they have healing from diabetes, chances are they'd be able to run a marathon, right? So let's just use that as an example. So that's the goal. We'll write down, I'm so thankful and I feel so amazing now that I've completed this 26-mile marathon. Well, you say that enough and you started to trick the mind that you're going to run a marathon. Well, you start to trick the mind that you've already run the marathon. So for you to
mm,
run that marathon, you probably would have to be in great health. You probably have to have a lot of energy. Your blood flow would
mm,
probably have to be moving pretty good. Your oxygen intake would have to be amazing. All of these pieces would matter, right? And then that goal helps you get there. Now, this is the next step is brainstorm. Well, what do we do there? We meditate. We meditate on that goal that we just wrote.
mm,
And what we do is we have the goal written at the top of a blank sheet of paper. We have the blank sheet of paper and the goal written up there and something to write with in front of us. And then we go sit out in nature and we just listen, right?
mm,
And as we listen in meditation, we're going to receive answers. It's going to come as flashes of information. It's going to go so fast. And as it comes, write it down. Because what these are is puzzle pieces to destiny.
mm,
But you've got to be able to sit down later with it and piece together what it is symbolically.
mm,
So this is the brainstorm process. Now, once we get past that brainstorm process, we get to the planning process. So all we're doing now is we're taking what we got in the brainstorm and we're aligning benchmark dates and times to these things, right? And then at that point, now we got to activate self-discipline to complete them. So this is the implementation stage. This four-step process brings into reality whatever it is that you want to come into reality. It gives you a purposeful way to create. However, we got to understand that what we're using as the engine of this creation machine is the imagination.
mhm,
So the suggestions matter so much because if we want the imagination to work the way we want it to work, it's got to be clear. So we got to let it sit still for a while, let all that silt go down to the bottom. And then, as we have time, we go through detoxification,
mm.
fasting. What are we doing now? We're scooping out that silt every time that it's too much of it down at the bottom. Even though the water's clear, we want the bottom of the water to be clear too.
Mm.
Right. So we'll go ahead and get back to reading real quick.
Not and just to add a little bit to what you're saying, man, those four things, because what it sounded like to me when you were describing those things is that now you're thinking outside the box and now you're constructing a new box. Remember, in my Father's house, there are many mansions. You know what I mean? I will go. That is the preparing of the place with Ferdinand just described. You know what I mean? You're in a meditative state. You're going outside of your normal 3D constructed, which is usually ironically four walls. Even if you're in a room that doesn't have four walls, it's hard for your brain to even compute what's going on. You know what I'm saying? Can you imagine if your room you had six walls or three walls, or what I'm saying? So we're used to boxes. So even if you look at my door and the frame, we are sacred geometry. This is why we have to look. I'm in a little rectangle box right now. Everything's in a box and squares, and or even cylinders or circular, which is a box, as Ferdinand uniquely pointed out. So we have to understand. To me, when he was constructing, he's showing you how to construct a new box, and we're entangling with it, and we're giving it flesh and tone reality, all in the mind. And then somehow it's not that you bring the this to the box. The body leaves that box, because Christ said, "I will come to you in your old box." I've been in my mind creating a new box, because there's many boxes, and I will draw thee unto me. You know what I mean? Which is taking you out of that situation, but because you got out of the situation first in mind. And we also understand, once again, going back to the first principle, we have to understand that when you're dealing with flesh is just another aspect of mind. So then it'll start to all make sense to you when you start getting out of these ideas as like 3D is 3D, or they're all the same place, different perspectives. God has segmented himself into different ethereal bodies, spiritual bodies, et cetera, et cetera. So it's so important when you were describing that to me, those points to me, you were describing creation of a new box, and somehow just in implanting this new sacred geometry into the subconscious mind is going to produce a seed of likeness, especially if you have faith and you have the ability to preserve, which faith is the ability to stay in the box despite what your reason and your senses of the mind is telling you. You're called to still have faith in this unseen reality. But once we know that the unseen, ironically, right, we know that the seen, when we're dealing with seen, we're dealing with senses, we're dealing with reason, we're dealing with Maya, right? It's not that it's not real. That's why I don't like using, oh, it's not real. No, it's real. It's just not the original substance. It's a mirrored copy. It's not the copy that produced, but it looks just like the thing that produced it. Exactly like it. It's just that if you want to change it, you can't change it. We have to go to the truth. The truth is just the original substance, which is the mind, the imagination.
Got macro and microcosms on all of the realms and dimensions.
Exactly. So go ahead, my brother. Please finish.
All right, cool. All right, so let's jump back into the book, y'all. When visualizing the money you intend to accumulate with closed eyes, see yourself rendering the service or delivering the merchandise you intend to give in return for this money. This is important.
I think we should just stop since it's important. Just let's just run it back. You know what I'm saying? Because even with it had with eyes closed, that's the importance. Because understand, when you're working with senses, just get it through your mind. You're working with the false reality. Not that it's not real. When we say false, we just mean it's not original substance. So you can't change it in the way that you think when you're dealing with the scene. As soon as you cut your eyes, even if you haven't, I need to do it too, but since a deprivation tank, you know what I'm saying? Because why it's more because we don't realize, even when you're laying on your bed trying to meditate, the earth is still pulling on you. You can feel your body being, so it's more senses that you got to fight through. But when you're able to go beyond taste, sense, touch, etc., you are now dealing with original substance. You're dealing with truth. Right. You know what I mean? So that's all I want to say is important. And it's also that it said, don't see you thinking of it in so much. See yourself doing the thing. Because mind you, the truth, originality, it impresses what is currently happening. So if you're in the spirit of, especially when you're imagining, oh, this will happen one day. You're playing imaginational scenes of it happening one day. You're impressing the lower reality in this mirror image of one day. So you have to go into the true original substance, and you have to know that the original substance does not play based off the same rule as the falser substance. The original substance only knows what is, and you go into the truth, and now you're not dreaming of it, you're in it, you're participating, you're giving it sensory vividness. And when you're also doing that, remember, the mind doesn't know the difference between real and fake. Your body is reacting, it's pulling in the frequencies, it's training the temporal mind, that is the eternal mind, on what should be duplicated into the simulacrum next. You know what I mean? Yes. And when we're entangling with these realities, not what we want, as if we're experiencing it, we're training the lesser reality on what to mirror. Remember, it's only a mirror. So that's why I said this is important. Now, every step is important. The visualization, the closing of your eyes, because some of us have vision maps and dream maps, which these things are cool too. But just know, when you're not closing your eyes and cutting your world off of the world of reason and senses and understanding, you're still using lower magic. This is telling us to use truer original substance along with the lower substance, but go into the original form, and don't impress it as if it's over there. See yourself already doing it. And it said this is important because this reality will mirror the doingness, the I amness, not the I hope to be soon on one day. And just, I'll say this, I'll land my plane. That's why Ferdinand said when he does his his mentorship and his thing with his clients, he's specifically getting them to spellbound and to scribe things in a certain arrangement. He's using letters and words. He wants you to arrange them into a certain arrangement because he over and understands that this silent voice, especially you lessen the noise, the subconscious, he's always listening, but you usually have a lot of noise and you have difference of opinion, so many that it can't really root any. But when you're writing in this certain way, this is the language. And especially if you have women, you understand this. It's what have you done for me lately? She's not trying to hear about tomorrow. Or if you have daughters, you know what I mean? They want it now, so the subconscious is not the language of one day, or we hope, or maybe when I think about it. It's what is happening now, right? And
Right.
if you understand women, if you got a good mouthpiece, you can almost get her to believe whatever it is that you want to believe. And she'll, even if it's the truth or not, she'll go amongst her days believing and knowing it. You know what I mean? I mean that, but it's true. Once I started to really understand the subconscious is a feminine energy and how women are, it allowed me to have a better relationship with my subconscious.
Yes.
And even, Neville Goddard likens it to. It said when you're talking to your subconscious, don't talk to it like a tyrant, but as a lover. As it's your own lover, and be kind and say sweet words. And once again, men are very direct. Like Ferdinand say, yo, we're gonna be live, we're gonna live, say cool. But a woman's not like that. Well, what's the colors gonna be like? Well, what's the topics? And all right, what should I wear? It's a different level of detail that you have to do when it comes to when you're working with the original substance. So some of these things might seem tedious. Is the reason why a lot of us don't do it. I can't meditate out here because it's dealing with a substance that most of us, if we're not taking time to practice, it irritates us that we have to sit still. You know what I mean? We think that, no, I don't have time for that. I need to make things happen. But we don't. When we say that, we don't know these laws. You know what I'm saying?
I'm so glad you said that, right? Because that takes us to perspective on regress trauma.
Mm.
When a person has something that they should do or need to do, and they're like, "Oh, nah, this is too much. This is irritating. This triggers my whatever." Right? There's some perspective on regress trauma in their past that they haven't dealt with, and it is putting them in a position where, as soon as it's time to do that real work, resistance kicks in.
Mm-hmm.
They have to have a gratification of emotions to be able to move forward.
Right. Yeah. And
So,
once again, it's the just finish. Yeah, because we almost done.
yeah,
Finish.
I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna read the rest of the chapter,
Yeah,
and then
I'm
we'll
not gonna
go ahead
stop
and
you. Yeah.
we'll
Go
jump in.
ahead.
All right, let's see. The fact that you are reading this book is an indication that you earnestly seek knowledge. It is also an indication that you are a student of this subject. If you are only a student, there is a chance that you may learn much that you did not know, but you will learn only by assuming an attitude of humility. If you choose to follow some of the instructions but neglect or refuse to follow others, you will fail. To get satisfactory results, you must follow all instructions in a spirit of faith. The instructions given in connection with the 6 steps in the second chapter will now be summarized and blended with the principles covered by this chapter as follows. First, go into some quiet spot, preferably in bed at night, where you will not be disturbed or interrupted. Close your eyes and repeat aloud so you may hear your own words the written statement of the amount of money you intend to accumulate, the time limit for its accumulation, and a description of the service or merchandise you intend to give in return for the money. As you carry out these instructions, see yourself already in possession of the money. For example, suppose that you intend to accumulate $50,000 by the 1st of January, 5 years hence, that you intend to give personal services in return for the money in the capacity of a salesman. Your written statement of your purpose should be similar to the following. By the first day of January 19 whatever year, I will have in my possession $50,000, which will come to me in various amounts from time to time during the interim. In return for this money, I will give the most efficient service of which I am capable, rendering the fullest possible quantity and the best possible quality of service in the capacity of salesman of, describe the service of or merchandise you intend to sell. I believe that I will have this money in my possession. My faith is so strong that I can now see this money before my eyes. I can touch it with my hands. It is now awaiting transfer to me at the time, and in the proportion that I deliver the service I intend to render in return for it. I am awaiting a plan by which to accumulate this money, and I will follow that plan when it is received. Second, repeat this program night and morning until you can see in your imagination the money you intend to accumulate. Third, place a written copy of your statement where you can see it night and morning and read it just before retiring and upon arising until it has been memorized. Remember, as you carry out these instructions, that you are applying the principle of autosuggestion for the purpose of giving orders to your subconscious mind. Remember also that your subconscious mind will act only upon instructions which are emotionalized and handed over to it with feeling. Faith is the strongest and most productive of the emotions. Follow the instructions given in the chapter on faith. These instructions may, at first, seem abstract. Don't let this disturb you. Follow the instructions, no matter how abstract or impractical they may at first appear to be. The time will soon come, if you do as you have been instructed, in spirit as well as in act, when a whole new universe of power will unfold to you. Skepticism, in connection with all new ideas, is characteristic of all human beings. But if you follow the instructions outlined, your skepticism will soon be replaced by belief, and this, in turn, will soon become crystallized into absolute faith. Then you will have arrived at the point where you may truly say, I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul. Many philosophers have made the statement that man is the master of his own earthly destiny, but most of them have failed to say why he is the master. The reason that man may be the master of his own earthly status, and especially his financial status, is thoroughly explained in this chapter. Man may become the master of himself and of his environment because he has the power to influence his own subconscious mind, and through it, gain the cooperation of infinite intelligence. You are now reading the chapter which represents the keystone to the arch of this philosophy. The instructions contained in this chapter must be understood and applied with persistence if you succeed in transmuting desire into money. The actual performance of transmuting desire into money involves the use of autosuggestion as an agency by which one may reach and influence the subconscious mind. The other principles are simply tools with which to apply autosuggestion. Keep this thought in mind, and you will, at all times, be conscious of the important part the principle of autosuggestion is to play in your efforts to accumulate money through the methods described in this book. Carry out these instructions as though you were a small child. Inject into your efforts something of the faith of a child. The author has been most careful to see that no impractical instructions were included because of his sincere desire to be helpful. After you have read the entire book, come back to this chapter and follow in spirit and in action this instruction. Read the entire chapter aloud once every night until you become thoroughly convinced that the principle of autosuggestion is sound, that it will accomplish for you all that has been claimed for it. As you read, underscore with a pencil every sentence which impresses you favorably. Follow the foregoing instruction to the letter, and it will open the way for a complete understanding and mastery of the principles of success. And that concludes chapter 4 of Think and Grow Rich. Thank you,
Man,
my brother.
listen, bars, man, bars, man. And what I felt, it was saying what he said, especially, in the spirit as well in act when a whole new universal power unfolds. And it said, you will truly be able to say, I'm the master of my fate. I'm the captain of my soul. To me, that is synonymous when Jesus Christ said, you will know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. Because it's the understanding of who you are, what you are, and when things arise that you don't want, what to do. That's the truth of all truths, and it's only the man. And once again, another man can't point to a man. No one knows the secrets of your heart. Only you know if you become that man. Even if the world is screaming at you, telling you that you're not, and trying to knock you off the pivot, no one else can confess that you have become set free but your own self, because only you know the truth. Only you know what your truth is. Now, once again, I'm suggesting my truth, what the truth is, when he was talking about the setting of free, is for you to understand your whole true relationship to your heavenly Father, and how to go to your heavenly Father, which is your ability to think outside the box and prepare places within these many rooms yourself, as we're articulating through this thing, and how to sit in these rooms separate from your other self that's in another room, which is your current reality, and you're cutting off that room that automatically puts you into a new room, a new box, and you're putting up and you're decorating and you're put, what I'm trying to say, you're doing all these things, because it also said, it proved what we said in the beginning, shout out to Chip, that belief is a prerequisite to absolute faith. So you have to work with the spirit of belief for a period of time, which is closing your eyes off to the word that you think is true, entangling in this newer world, and spend time decorating until it starts to concrete itself into a, he calls it a burning white hot desire. What I just call it is that you've been practicing with these imaginal things so long that you started to flesh out the world, literally. And then that world, when you see the word of your senses, it doesn't even register no more, because you've been in true origin. You've been in messing with truer substance. And that becomes your obsession. That becomes your world. And then you're prophesizing like Noah and some of the other people about things that are unseen as if they were. And they call you a madman. They say that you're working with demons. They say, you know what I mean? Because they don't understand. They're still going off the old Mosaic tablets of God's law outside of himself. They haven't accepted that it has been written on my heart, and as a man is made in his heart and in his mind, and renewing of mind and spirit, so shall he be, fulfilling the prophecy of what Christ was saying, you shall know the truth. Is a man not in shackles? Is he faced with the condition and he doesn't find a way out? Does a man not thus frees himself when he is met with the condition and he knows how to free himself? You know what I mean? So this is when, to me, is saying that you can look and then you'll be able to say that I am the master of my fate. I am the master of my own personal universe and the master of my soul. Is the only one who can. But once again, we have many times to the truth it doesn't come one time and it stays. We demonstrate the truth every time that we're met with an obstacle, and we make the crooked road laid straight by going to the potter, the Father, who is the true originator, which we know these are all euphemism and to say mind, you know what I mean? And we are the manifestation son, the visible portion. Because once again, I can't show you my imagination. You know what I mean? I can't say, hey, Ferdinand, there's a new box. You have to do as everyone else do, which is cool to me. I might see it, but we have to wait till it's called upon me and I'm drawn into it. And then how do you know a prophet was amongst you? Because the prophets amongst us are the ones who called things as if they were, and then we waited through time to see if that was true. Isn't that how the Bible say how to describe if you've been amongst a prophet? You know what I'm trying to say? Yeah. So this is what it's trying to show us. Those of us are the prophet. Those of us who are prophets who can say, look at this condition, but there's another condition that's coming, and y'all wait and see. And when it came, we are the ones that say, see, didn't I tell you? Am I not a prophet? Did I not call things that unseen as if they were? Did you not have to wait time to bear witness what I've already told you is true? And then you get to confess, is my God not your God? Are you set free by the same God that set me free? Or you choose to not, and you worship a falser God, the golden calf, the tablets, the Quran, the Netu Neter, the Thoth teachings. You go and you say, no, man cannot be this strange mixture of divinity and humanity, the strange mixture of word and flesh. I must go study the flesh, or I must go study the words. You're not willing to be, as I call my brother, the bringer of truth, which is balance. You know what I'm saying? Which is understanding that you are both. You are the strange mixture of both. And it's your ability to understand that you're balanced. Yes, it is a fleshly being, but it's also a divine being. And you cannot separate one from the other. You cannot separate the flesh from the word. You cannot separate the word from the flesh. Even, and we don't have a 313, you know what I'm saying? But, even in the Bible.
Let me jump in just for a second.
Okay, go ahead.
So first things first, thank you to everybody who's out there still tuned in. Really appreciate y'all getting this knowledge that we given, and really appreciate everybody who put knowledge in the comments, because this is a two-way thing, right? We getting it both ways, right? No diddy. But I want to put a lot of emphasis on this amazing message that we keep getting from Ra Thriver. Right. I really want to thank the brother for what he's doing volunteering his message out here, just giving it to the people. We don't really accept any money from anybody. Like, I mean, if people want to donate and they hit our Cash App, great, but we don't look for it. Right, we're just out here giving the message to the people, and I want to thank this brother. And if you got any closing words, brother, go ahead. You got the floor.
Man, listen, man, I think this was a great one. We said it was going to be one for the books. This is one that where, I even want to, go back and rewatch for myself. You know what I mean? But, just the power of what we're trying to say, what auto suggestion is. When you are taking the words and applying it to self, you are mediating, what Christ was trying to say, that you're being set free, because we're all dealing with some sort of chains. We're all dealing with some sort of restriction or limitations in the 3D box world. And we all want to be set free from certain conditions. So this is why we talked about earlier, there's a state of belief and there's a state of knowing. And the whole thing about it is that no other man outside of yourself knows what you're chained to. Some people might think I'm chained to something that I'm not chained to, or vice versa. You know what I mean? So this is a interpersonal thing. This is a you thing. And only you can set yourself free from the conditions that are the things that's plaguing you and your soul. And then you can come to full evidence to yourself just by looking at restrictions. And then you can acknowledge, am I a believer? Do I have hope, or do I have conviction? Do I have knowingness? And then we also showed you on how to get the white hot burning desire, how to get the conviction, that there's actually a process. Yes, it's meticulous. Yes, at times it can be what some people might deem laborious. But even when we're using those words, you don't understand that you're dealing with the power of God, and the fact that it's so easily accessible, the fact that you don't have to go there and go here, and you don't even have to read all the books that me and Ferdinand has read. Oh, you don't have to pay any of the dues that we have to pay, because we're making it plain and simple. We're betraying the Masonic orders. We're betraying things that you have to go get degrees and wear hats and join lodges, and it might not seem it because it's so free. So you're looking at it like, there's no way that those guys are not talking about any other. You're muted. What you say? And,
Oh,
I'll land my
I
plane
was just saying,
shortly.
they don't realize how a lot of people don't realize how deep these conversations really are, and how multi-layered they are in disciplines. Like, we're
Mm,
touching so many different forms of alchemy. We're touching so many different religious backgrounds, so many different sciences, and we're doing it and putting it into like 3 or 4 sentences.
exactly. So I'll land my plane shortly. So yeah. So what once again, it's like go tell it on the mountain. I feel like something has unfolded inside of me, and like I say, I don't know if I'm using the message. The message is using me. It's probably using me. But I just want to tell you guys and show you guys this Jesus Christ, this God of Scripture, what they were trying to tell you. We're showing you what it is, what it means, and then how to know whether you're in the spirit of righteousness. I think a man is in the spiritual rightness. Any man who has been confined to a condition and has went to his many mansions, his many houses, and do exactly what Ferdinand talked about in those 4 principles. And he thought outside the box, and he constructed himself a new box. And then he went to him that was experiencing a current condition, and he gave him rest. And he gave the weary, that version of him that was tired of his situation, tired of what he was going through. He became his own salvation, and he didn't need anyone else's glory to do it. He didn't need anyone else's crown, nor did he need anyone's own permission. He turned himself to the kingdom. He turned himself to the temple, and he understood who God was through application of these principles. That's the only way that you can know him. That's the only way you can know what it is that you think that it is. So once again, I appreciate everybody for this. I appreciate the boy Ferdinand. Appreciate the boy Ferdinand for pause, dropping his sauce. No diddy. And yeah, man, go ahead and close it out, man. This was something I was really excited for you and us to get, because these are things that I hear you keep saying. So I'm like, man, we might as well do a whole episode on auto suggestion, which ironically, when I go through the episodes, it feels like we're following the order, and we're not. It's like we might be 50 episodes in. We might say, yo, this was a device. We wasn't even trying to create an order. We're just submitting, being free. But low key, it's like we're picking the perfect topics to guide people from the abstract all the way down to the practicality that, and I'm not even trying to brag or boast, that I have not seen being done on these internet streets. So shout out to you. Shout out to everybody who participated. Once again, y'all are all co-creators. We couldn't do this without y'all. And I'll pass it over to my brother to end the show.
My brother, thank you very much. I got to tell everybody out there, thank you so much for coming through. Thank you for what you've given in the comments, all that knowledge, all those questions. And that helps Ra and I to have more to to touch, no diddy. Well, it gives us what we need to move in that holistic circle, right? Because that's what we're focused on, is giving you a full circle picture of what we're talking about, from the spirit, mental, and the physical, from the higher and the lower, and then putting it in the full pie, all of the slices. So hopefully y'all are receiving that. If anybody's got any questions, if anybody's got any type of information y'all want to teach us, feel free to send a message. Look it down in the description of these videos. We got a bunch of links up there. We got a lot of ways for you to get in touch with us. Anybody who wants some of the books that we're putting up on the screen, they are all downloadable in the Mastermind Library. The Mastermind Library link is in the description of the comments. So listen, y'all be blessed and expose your gift.